Chapter 2657. Young Uncle Master vs. Sir Suicide Messenger. They're fighting, too. The sword trembled, turning into countless afterimages, forming a sword shield, directly blocking the demon-slaying sword's attack. The man's elegant and melodious voice resounded between heaven and earth. That depends on whether you have the ability to kill it or not. The two strong met on the battlefield. In an instant, the entire sky above Fusang City was filled with sword energy. Fusang City, which had already been almost destroyed, collapsed even more. Mu Yan and the rest had already hidden in the formation. Only the 9 Palace 8 trigrams formation that Mu Yan had set up was not affected by the battle. Looking at the two fighting in the sky, Luo Yu could not help but sigh. Brother Ning's attitude towards killing the demon race can be said to be paranoid. Leng Yuma, little junior sister, aren't you worried when these two fight? Mu Yan took the tea that Enchanting handed over and took a sip, saying slowly, Brother Ning can't hurt young Uncle Master. Young Uncle Master always knows his limits. What am I worried about? Hee, that's true. Let's just watch from the sidelines. This kind of battle is hard to come by in 1,000 years. Sir Yun Zhao's name spread far and wide throughout the Shuzhen continent. Because of the title of #1 swordsman, many people wanted to challenge him to make a name for themselves. In the end, these people were all defeated by Luo Yunxiao's sword. However, there had never been news of Luo Yunxiao killing anyone who challenged him. On the contrary, those who encountered danger deep in the mountains would occasionally be saved by Luo Yunxiao. This was also one of the reasons why Sir Yun Zhao's reputation and prestige grew, and there were more and more people who liked him. The situation was as Mu Yan expected. Although Ning Su was strong, compared to Luo Yunxiao, he was still far from it. Luo Yunxiao only used 3 natal swords to tire Ning Su out and he was unable to defend. According to Qi Huang, young Uncle Master had at least 12 natal swords. If Luo Yunxiao really wanted to kill Ning Su, he would have been riddled with holes by now. In the 9 Palace 8 trigrams formation, the female cultivators who were originally trembling in fear from the sword battle. At this moment, they looked up at the sky excitedly, their eyes filled with infatuation as they screamed. Young Master Yunxiao is really too handsome. My little junior sister used to keep saying that young Master Yunxiao is unparalleled in the world, but I didn't think much of it and scolded her for being infatuated. Now that she had seen him with her own eyes, she realized that there was actually such a perfect man in this world. I'm going to faint. Guai Yun's face flushed with excitement. Aren't the great god Jun and the Xiaoyao sect the most powerful ones? Heavens, so young Master Yunxiao is also from the Xiaoyao sect. What kind of godly place is this Xiaoyao school? Brother Yuanbua, when we get back, we'll immediately apply to join the Xiaoyao sect. The ones who screamed were the young girls who had just been caught and brought to Fusang City. As for Enchanting, Zhu Wan, and the others, after experiencing all that filth and depravity, they had long become indifferent to everything in the world. Towards men, she was even more repulsed. But when he saw the battle between Luo Yunxiao and Ning Su, he couldn't help but be amazed. It wasn't because of his appearance, but because of his terrifying strength. Zhu Wan looks at Mayan and says sincerely, only such an outstanding man is worthy of great god Jun. Enchanting could not help but nod. Both of them are meticulous and observant people. Plus, all their attention has been on Mayan, so it's easy to see that when Luo Yunxiao looks at Mayan, there's a hidden affection in her eyes. Chapter 2658. Ning Su, who has lost his mind. 1. Mu Yan looked at the two of them in confusion. What nonsense are you talking about? That's my junior martial uncle. What do you mean I'm not worthy? Do you want me to commit incest? Luo Yu and the others also laughed when they heard that. They completely didn't see Yun Ruhan's sigh of distress. Luo Yu was about to explain that sixth sister belongs to instructor Immerse. Suddenly, a muffled sound came from the sky. A figure fell from the sky and fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Mu Yan walked out of the 9 Palace 8 trigrams formation, and looked at Ning Su on the ground. "Brother Ning, are you all right?" She saw that Sir Suicide's hair was in a mess, his clothes were torn in several places, and there were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. Although his injuries weren't serious, he cut a sorry figure. Mu Yan smacked her lips. "Isn't Junior Marshal Uncle a bit ruthless?" As they spoke, Luo Yunxiao also slowly descended from the sky and stood in front of Mu Yan. The black-robed swordsman's expression was as usual, elegant as ever, even his hair wasn't messed up. Seeing that Mu Yan took out the elixir for Ning Su, he didn't continue to attack, nor did he show any displeased expression. He just stood at the side. Luo Yu, who originally wanted to explain to Zhu Wan and the others, also walked out of the 9 Palace 8 trigrams formation, and surrounded Luo Yunxiao. Qi Wen popped her head out. "Humph, you can't even beat Laozi's master's 3 swords, and you still have the nerve to kill Laozi. You're not deliberately trying to hurt yourself to attract Mei Yan's attention, are you? I'm telling you, with that face of yours, stop dreaming. Mei Yan won't like, ugh." Before he could finish, Luo Yunxiao pressed him back. Mu Yan crouched down and brought the elixir to Ning Su, saying softly, "Brother Ning, not everything in this world is black and white. There are demons that are bad, and naturally, there are also good ones. Just like spirit cultivators, there are also good and bad people. Isn't it a bit too extreme for you to kill all the demons with a stick?" Halfway through her words, she was suddenly gripped by her wrist. His cold, blood-stained fingers were like a pair of iron pincers that gripped her tightly. It was as if he wanted to crush her bones. Mu Yan raised her head in astonishment, but what she saw was Ning Su's bloodthirsty crimson eyes that were close to insanity. "Why are you speaking for the demon clan? You're going to abandon me for that demon? Abandon the Ning family? Why? Why did you betray the Ning family?" Mayan seems to hear the bones in her wrist make a cracking sound, and a piercing pain comes through. "Big brother Ning, wake up." Mu Yan endured the pain, trying to break free from Ning Su's shackles. "Did you recognize the wrong person?" However, her struggle made Ning Su even crazier. "You want to escape? You want to run away with that devil?" "No. I won't allow it. The number 1 iron law of the Ning family is that those who have secret dealings with the demons, die. Say you'll stay, say you'll kill that demon with your own hands." "I don't want to kill you. Don't force me to kill you with my own hands." Crimson thoroughly stains Ning Su's eyes, and a dense and cold energy rushes out of his body, heading straight for Mayan. The appearance of this cold and gloomy energy makes Mayan go blank. She seems to feel familiarity and intimacy from this energy fluctuation. But at the same time, it's incomparable terror and disgust. It's as if it's mixed with an aura that makes her feel pain and despair. Just what kind of energy is this? What relationship does she have with Ning Su? Chapter 2659. Mayan's momentary daze makes her forget to dodge. The cold energy instantly touches the surface of her skin. In a split second, it's as if she's thrown into ice water, bone-chilling, and every drop of blood freezes. Just a little touch, and it's already as cold as hell. If that energy completely envelopes her, Mayan slightly widens her eyes, and frantically mobilizes the spiritual power in her body, but it's too late, too late. At the critical moment, the sword hums. A warm, bamboo-like aura envelopes her whole body. Luo Yunxiao reaches out and pulls her away from Ning Su's shackles, shielding her behind him. However, that cold and gloomy energy seemed to be all-pervasive. It directly penetrates Luo Yunxiao's net of swords, and burrows into his body. In a split second, a red light streaks across Luo Yunxiao's eyes. Young martial uncle, how are you? Mayan helplessly watches as Luo Yunxiao takes Ning Su's attack for her. She only touched a little, and she knows how uncomfortable that cold energy is. But young martial uncle has been hit so many times. Go back. Luo Yunxiao says in a hoarse voice, all 7 of you, go back to the formation. His hands are tightly clenched into fists, his nails deeply embedded in his palms, as if he's desperately trying to suppress something. At this time, Ning Su has already stood up from the ground with red eyes. His eyes are unfocused, looking at Luo Yunxiao with anger and hatred. There's a crazed murderous intent on his face. Demonic energy, I feel demonic energy from you, you really should be killed. As long as I kill you, she can live. As long as I kill you, she will return to the Ning family. Demon, go to hell. With a roar, the demon-slaying sword, accompanied by a flash of blood-red light, stabs straight at Luo Yunxiao. Luo Yunxiao's figure moves, as if he wants to dodge and mobilize his natal sword. But as soon as he moves, his face goes deathly pale, and he forcibly withstands it. Puchi. That's the sound of a long sword piercing flesh. The demon-slaying sword directly pierces Luo Yunxiao's chest, just an inch away from his heart. Blood gushes out. The red light on the demon-slaying sword curls up into raging flames, burning the flowing blood and torn flesh. Young martial uncle. When Mu Yan's group of 7 saw this scene, their eyes almost split open. They no longer cared about youngest uncle's orders. They turned back from the 9 palaces and 8 trigrams formation and rushed over. Luo Yunxiao shouted, go back. Aren't you going to obey my orders? But at this time, who would listen to him? Youngest martial uncle was about to lose his life. Why would he still respect his master? However, before they could get close, Ning Su stabbed out a second time. This sword strike was even more destructive and soul-stirring than the previous one. The people of the Xiaoyao sect couldn't make it in time. Even Ling Yuxing, who was the fastest among them, had yet to fully recover from his previous injuries. Only Mu Yan, who has activated the lotus blooming steps. Her figure disappeared like a bolt of lightning, and when she reappeared, she was already in front of Luo Yunxiao. Fear appears on Luo Yunxiao's usually calm face for the first time. Mayan, get out of the way. The 7 absolute swords were unleashed, and the sound of the zither filled the air. The spiritual energy, immortal energy, and dark force in his body began to circulate wildly. She hears Qi Huang's angry roar, Jun Mayan, you're crazy. That's the demon-slaying first strike, it's not something you can block now. If your natal sword breaks, you won't survive either. Mayan's eyes are resolute, and she has no regrets. As the sound of the zither ripples, a series of Shen musician skills are thrown out. If you haven't blocked it before, how do you know you can't? Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2660. Do you want me to be a widow? Little martial uncle had saved her so many times. Could it be that she had to watch little martial uncle die? To her, the people of the Xiaoyao sect were her most important family. She would never allow anyone to die in front of her. Never. The demon slayer sword whistled through the air. The wind howled and the sky changed color. Mu Yan set up the divine hands, but as soon as she touched it, it was shattered by the sword aura. She spat out a mouthful of blood. In the blink of an eye, the demon slayer sword was in front of her and collided with her natal sword, the 7 deadly swords. A kind of pain and fear that even his soul felt like it was about to be crushed assaulted him. Mu Yan spat out another mouthful of blood. Her face was pale, but she didn't retreat. Behind her, Luo Yunxiao's eyes were stained with blood when she saw this. A crazy desire to kill and destroy surged out from the depths of his eyes, from his limbs, and from every inch of his skin. It was as if there was something terrifying and destructive that could no longer be sealed and was about to surge out. No one noticed this scene. But for some reason, Ning Su seemed to be more agitated. His expression was ferocious and crazy. He couldn't see that the Demon Slayer's sword was attacking Mu Yen. With one thought, the demon-slaying sword once again swung down with unstoppable force. Go to hell, demon. As long as I kill you, everything will be fine. Pfft. Mu Yen spat out another mouthful of blood. She couldn't stand and fell to her knees. Cracks appeared on the crystal-clear 7 deadly swords. Junior sister. The people of the Xiaoyao sect were going crazy. They were only one step away, but they couldn't save their junior sister or uncle master. Even the female cultivators in the 9 Palaces 8 trigrams formation rushed out. The Demon Slayer's sword flew up for the 3rd time and chopped down heavily on Mu Yen. Everyone had a look of despair on their faces. Zhu Wan and the others went pale and fell to their knees with a thud. Guaiyin burst into tears and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Don't kill God Jun, I beg you, don't kill God Jun." However, Ning Su had already lost his mind. He couldn't hear or see anyone. There was only his imaginary enemy in front of him. The demon-slaying sword was about to collide with the 7 Absolute sword for the 3rd time. There was no longer a trace of hesitation in Luo Yunxiao's eyes. She suddenly pressed her hand on her bleeding chest. Qi Wen's voice was so anxious and distant, "Master, you can't. Do you want to waste all your previous efforts?" Behind Luo Yu, the Baifeng and the Bei's divine beast appeared at the same time. He no longer cared whether his identity would be discovered or not. A red light flashed behind Leng Yuma and gradually converged into a red lotus, blossoming layer by layer. The silver bow and divine arrow appeared in Chu Moli's hand once again. What was different from before was that the sword in his hand was no longer an illusory silver. Instead, it was pitch black like ink. Everyone from the Xiaoyao sect was ready to risk everything. At all costs, he would never allow them to harm Mayan. Rumble. Just at this critical moment, a blue bolt of lightning falls from the sky and turns into a barrier of light, enveloping Mayan within. Then, a dazzling blue light suddenly bloomed. With an unstoppable might, it crushed everything in its surroundings. Bang! The demon-slaying sword fell from the sky, making a buzzing sound as it fell to the ground. Bang! Ning Su was hit by the blue light and was sent flying dozens of meters away. He fainted. Bang, bang, bang. Chapter 2661. The people of the Xiaoyao sect, who had been ready, were also swept by the blue light. Bai Zhe, Bai Fong, the silver bow, and the red lotus all disappeared. Several people are thrown to the ground, looking in Mayan's direction in shock. Only Luo Yunxiao stood still, but he slowly lowered his hand from his chest, and the red in his eyes gradually faded. Looking at Mu Yen, who was surrounded by the blue light, his mouth slowly turned up. Joy and despair, gentleness and sorrow. Mu Yan's natal sword had just been formed, and it was extremely unstable. Ning Su's strength had already far surpassed the peak of the Shuzhen continent. His demon-slaying sword was also a natal sword, but it was formed decades earlier than Mu Yen. How could Mu Yen resist? She was able to withstand the 3rd attack of the demon-slaying sword because her sword heart was far more solid than other sword cultivators. As the natal sword broke bit by bit, Mu Yen felt the pain of her soul being torn apart. As Qi Huang said, her cultivation was too low, and her natal sword formed too early. Once the natal sword broke, the sword heart would collapse, and she would never be able to become a sword cultivator again. If it was bad, even her soul would be destroyed. But at this moment, it was already a matter of life and death, and she could not advance or retreat. However, just as she was about to lose hope, a powerful energy fell from the sky and enveloped her body. The warm air comforted every inch of her meridians, flowed through her dantian, and washed her soul. It caused the heart-wrenching pain to gradually disappear. Mu Yan felt as if she was wrapped in a warm embrace. This embrace was so familiar, and it made her feel at ease, making her feel happy from the bottom of her heart. In this world, there was only one embrace that could make her feel at ease and happy. Mu Yan suddenly opened her eyes wide. However, she felt that the embrace had become solid, turning into a pair of firm and strong hands, and a broad chest, tightly holding her in his arms. The violent and rapid heartbeat rang in her ears, the hot breath, the sweat dripping from his chin, and the slightly trembling hands holding her, all showed how frightened the owner was. Mu Yan slowly raised her head, and suddenly met a pair of beautiful ice blue eyes. A raging flame burned in the depths of his eyes, as if he couldn't wait to swallow her whole. Demingju. Mu Yan is wild with joy, hugging the person. Why are you here? Only when she saw the man in front of her did she realize how much she missed him. At this moment, she even forgets that she just experienced a crisis of life and death, and also forgets the blazing fury in Demingju's eyes. Immersed in the joy of reuniting after such a long time, he forgot what day it was and where he was. Demingju breathes in the young girl's familiar and fresh breath. His heart, which has nearly jumped out of his throat, slowly settles back to its original position. God knows how panicked he was when he first arrived at the Xiuzhen continent and sensed that Mayan's natal sword was about to shatter. The lingering fear and anger in his heart made him want to hang this disobedient woman up and teach her a lesson. However, when he saw the flower-like smile right in front of him and the undisguised joy and attachment in her peach blossom eyes, that little bit of anger is like a punctured balloon, and it almost dissipates in an instant. Demingju grits his teeth 3 times, and in the end, he only coldly spits out a sentence: "If Ben Jun didn't come, should I just watch you court your own death? Do you want Ben Jun to be a widow without even getting married?" Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2662. Mayan. Wait a minute, Jun Shangdaran is being widowed like this. But Mu Yan also knows that this time, she was really too risky, too impulsive. When the demon-slaying sword attacked for the 3rd time, she had nowhere to run. However, with his divine sense, he could clearly sense that his fellow disciples of the Xiaoyao sect were willing to disregard everything and even sacrifice their lives to save him. What made Mu Yan even more apprehensive was the junior martial uncle behind her. That faintly discernible and terrifying aura made her feel fear and unease. Mu Yan had a premonition that if he allowed this energy to completely erupt, it would definitely cause very bad consequences. The consequences were not something that anyone could bear. Fortunately, Demingju came. Mu Yan reaches out and hugs the man, buries her face in his chest, and says in a muffled voice, "I'm sorry, I made you worry." "And thank you." Demingju snorts coldly, but doesn't say anything. "Don't think that Ben Jun will let you off just like this." Mayan raises her head, her eyebrows are curved, her eyes like autumn waters. "Thank you for always being by my side. It must be because God saw that my previous life was too hard, so he sent you to my side in this life." She was telling the truth. Mayan thinks that perhaps God really felt that her previous life was too bitter, so he helped her keep Xiaobao, and even let her meet Demingju. If it was said that all the hardships and tribulations she had experienced in her previous life were all for this reunion in this life, then there was no longer any resentment in her heart, only sincere gratitude. She is grateful that she was fortunate enough to meet Demingju in this life, to know and love each other. She is grateful that the bitterness of the past life has been exchanged for the sweetness of this life. Sweet words directly hit the heart. Jun Shangdaran can no longer remain aloof, he only feels the blood in his entire body boiling. If there weren't so many eyesores surrounding them, he would have kissed the girl in his arms and rubbed her into his bones and blood. At this time, Yun Ruhan and the others also come back to their senses. Seeing Di Mingju embracing Mayan, each and every one of them feels that they've escaped from death, overjoyed. They surrounded him excitedly. Mentor Mo, why are you here? Fortunately, Instructor Mo, you came in time. You really scared us to death just now. What's wrong with this young master suicide? After being defeated by Junior Marshal Uncle, he started to go crazy and actually wanted to kill Junior Marshal's sister. Di Mingju's gaze turned cold as he looked at the unconscious Ning Su. His hair was a mess and his face was pale. Unbeknownst to him, the skin all over his body had split open inch by inch, and fresh blood gushed out from the cracks. Before long, he felt as if he was soaking in a pool of blood. Seeing Di Mingju raise his hand, Mayan promptly stops him. Wait a minute, Di Mingju, don't kill him yet. He sees Di Mingju looking over with an unfriendly expression. She hesitated for a moment, then said in a low voice, I think that Ning Su or the Ning family might have something to do with me. Di Mingju frowns. Mu Yan, don't you think that Ning Su's facial features are somewhat similar to mine? Di Mingju looked at the unconscious Ning Su with a face full of disgust. Similar my ass. Does this trash have the qualifications to look like his Yan Yan? Mu Yan immediately understands the man's expression and can't help but laugh for a moment. Ning Su was obviously too obsessed and went berserk. He mistook little Uncle Master and me for someone else. He didn't mean to hurt me. She gently scratches Di Mingju's palm with her finger, lowering her voice and saying, What's more, if Big Brother Ning really is related to my past, perhaps I can follow the clues and find my biological father. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2663. Instructor Mo's Sea of Jealousy, we're used to it, too. Di Mingju stares blankly, then immediately comes to his senses. Yin Yan's biological father is the bastard who arranged Yin Yan's engagement. But he has searched all over the Shushan continent, turning all the 3 live stones in the polar domain upside down, and he still hasn't found the slightest clue. In this way, there are only 2 possibilities. The first is that the 3 live stone that arranged Mayan's engagement is in the nether domain or the infernal domain. The other is that there isn't a 3 live stone, but a man who truly has a marriage vow with Mayan is still alive. Thinking of this possibility, Di Mingju can't stop a murderous intent from welling up in his heart. He also refuses to accept this possibility. And the only way to confirm it is to find Mayan's biological father. Di Mingju fiercely squeezes Mayan's small hand in his palm, coldly saying, Xing Lang, go investigate this person's background. There's clearly no one around, but when he gives the order. Xing Lang's stern voice immediately comes from the void, as you bid, Jun Shang. Di Mingju coldly looks at the unconscious Ning Su, but in the end, he doesn't make a move. Instead, he turns his gaze to Luo Yunxiao. The 2 people's gazes meet in the air. Luo Yunxiao's complexion is a little pale, her expression calm and without ripples, but there's a trace of desolate despair in her eyes. Di Mingju's pupils slightly contract. Just now, when he saved Yan Yan by a hair's breadth, he felt that energy fluctuation. It can't be wrong. You're from the nether domain. Luo Yunxiao slowly nods. Di Mingju frowns, his gaze sharp. The power surging in your body originates from the nether sacred flame. You're of the nether domain's royal bloodline. But why has Ben Jun never heard of you among Yin Wuji's descendants? What is your purpose in appearing in the Shushan continent and approaching Mayan? Luo Yunxiao lowers her eyes, hoarsely saying, From now on, I will leave the Shushan continent, and will never appear in front of her, in front of them. You can rest assured. Young master. Young master, are you joking? Even Mayan looks up at Di Mingju in shock, then looks at Luo Yunxiao. Did something happen that she didn't know about? Di Mingju caresses her cheek to comfort her. Then, he looks at Luo Yunxiao and says with a sneer, "What does it have to do with me whether you leave the Shuzhen continent or not? Could it be that Ben Jun will still worry about you snatching people from me? Not to mention the fact that you are only Yin Wuji's son. Even if Yin Wuji personally came here and dared to plot against us, this lord would still make him crawl back." Luo Yunxiao jerks her head up, looking at Di Mingju in disbelief. The Polar Domain Sovereign Emperor's words were unpleasant to hear, but the meaning in his words was clear. He could stay on the cultivation continent, stay in the carefree sect, stay in. Luo Yu rushed over and pulled Luo Yunxiao's sleeve. "Little uncle master, why are you leaving? If you leave, little Seven will cry for you." "That's right, young martial uncle. We don't care about the Nether Domain or the Devil Race. Anyway, we only recognize you as our junior martial uncle. As long as it's a man who gets close to junior sister, Instructor Mo will be jealous. His words weren't directed at you, so don't take it seriously. We're used to it. I was also almost killed by Instructor Mo's gaze. Not to mention you, even this old lady, a girl, was almost drowned in Instructor Mo's sea of jealousy when I hugged my junior sister." Listening to the chatter of her fellow apprentices, urging Luo Yunxiao to stay, and ridiculing Di Mingju's words, Mayan couldn't help but burst into laughter. It's time to repay the debt. As he starts to have the confidence to ask everyone for votes. It's the beginning of the month, so don't hide the guaranteed monthly votes, moi. Chapter 2664. We are used to Instructor Mo's jealousy. Mayan. Wait a minute, Jun Shangdaran is being widowed like this. But Mu Yan also knows that this time, she was really too risky, too impulsive. When the demon-slaying sword attacked for the third time, she had nowhere to run. However, with his divine sense, he could clearly sense that his fellow disciples of the Xiaoyao sect were willing to disregard everything and even sacrifice their lives to save him. What made Mu Yan even more apprehensive was the junior martial uncle behind her. That faintly discernible and terrifying aura made her feel fear and unease. Mu Yan had a premonition that if he allowed this energy to completely erupt, it would definitely cause very bad consequences. The consequences were not something that anyone could bear. Fortunately Di Mingju came. Mu Yan reaches out and hugs the man, buries her face in his chest, and says in a muffled voice, "I'm sorry, I made you worry." "And thank you." Di Mingju snorts coldly, but doesn't say anything. "Don't think that Ben Jun will let you off just like this." Mayan raises her head, her eyebrows are curved, her eyes like autumn waters. "Thank you for always being by my side. It must be because God saw that my previous life was too hard, so he sent you to my side in this life." She was telling the truth. Mayan thinks that perhaps God really felt that her previous life was too bitter, so he helped her keep Xiaobao, and even let her meet Di Mingju. If it was said that all the hardships and tribulations she had experienced in her previous life were all for this reunion in this life, then there was no longer any resentment in her heart, only sincere gratitude. She is grateful that she was fortunate enough to meet Di Mingju in this life, to know and love each other. She is grateful that the bitterness of the past life has been exchanged for the sweetness of this life. Sweet words directly hit the heart. Jun Shangdaran can no longer remain aloof, he only feels the blood in his entire body boiling. If there weren't so many eyesores surrounding them, he would have kissed the girl in his arms and rubbed her into his bones and blood. At this time, Yun Ruhan and the others also come back to their senses. Seeing Di Mingju embracing Mayan, each and every one of them feels that they've escaped from death, overjoyed. They surrounded him excitedly. Mentor Mo, why are you here? Fortunately, Instructor Mo, you came in time. You really scared us to death just now. What's wrong with this young master suicide? After being defeated by Junior Marshall Uncle, he started to go crazy and actually wanted to kill Junior Marshall's sister. Di Mingju's gaze turned cold as he looked at the unconscious Ning Su. His hair was a mess and his face was pale. Unbeknownst to him, the skin all over his body had split open inch by inch, and fresh blood gushed out from the cracks. Before long, he felt as if he was soaking in a pool of blood. Seeing Di Mingju raise his hand, Mayan promptly stops him. Wait a minute, Di Mingju, don't kill him yet. He sees Di Mingju looking over with an unfriendly expression. She hesitated for a moment, then said in a low voice, I think that Ning Su or the Ning family might have something to do with me. Di Mingju frowns. Mu Yan, don't you think that Ning Su's facial features are somewhat similar to mine? Di Mingju looked at the unconscious Ning Su with a face full of disgust. Similar my ass. Does this trash have the qualifications to look like his Yan Yan? Mu Yan immediately understands the man's expression and can't help but laugh for a moment. Ning Su's obsession was obviously too deep, and he went berserk. He mistook me and Junior Marshall Uncle for someone else, and didn't intentionally hurt me. She gently scratches Di Mingju's palm with her finger, lowering her voice and saying, What's more, if Big Brother Ning really has something to do with my past, perhaps I can follow the clues and find my biological father. Chapter 2666. Where's the supposed gentle and considerate fiancé? 1. Seeing that Di Mingju's face is so gloomy that it could drip water, Mayan gently shakes it. Lord Vinegar Jar, how does it feel to be ridiculed by your students? Di Mingju sneers sinisterly, they're dead meat. Leng Yuma and the others, who had just been talking enthusiastically, suddenly shivers. Mayan grabs the man's sleeve, pulling him slightly forward, and whispers in his ear, but I especially like it when you're jealous for me. In the whole world, I like you the most. As she finishes speaking, she sees the man's earlobe turn red at a visible rate. Unfortunately, that peerlessly handsome face still has a grave and stern appearance, making Mayan's heart itch terribly. How she wishes that it's only the two of them right now, so that she can properly tease her dear fiancé. Unfortunately, there are too many eyes right now, so it's not the right time. Mayan pulls Di Mingju to stand in front of Luo Yunxiao, and looks up at him. Little Marshall Uncle, I don't know if the Netherworld domain and the Polar domain are enemies, but in our eyes, you're only our little Marshall Uncle, a member of our Xiaoyao sect. Just like Di Mingju, in my heart, he's only my fiancé, the person I love. It has nothing to do with him being the Polar domain's sovereign. So little Marshall Uncle, if you're planning to leave because you have a different position from Di Mingju, then there's no need. But if you have other things to do and want to leave, we definitely won't stop you. The Xiaoyao sect will never be your shackles, but a home where you can turn around and rest whenever you feel tired. The sunlight falls on Luo Yinxiao's ink-black eyes, and there seems to be something breaking apart inside, turning into a sparkling stream of light. His gaze sweeps over Mayan, Yun Ruhan, Qin Zhou, everyone in the Xiaoyao sect. There's no suspicion in those eyes, no hesitation, no blame for concealing his identity, only trust and understanding that he's a close relative. Luo Yunxiao suddenly lowers his eyes, his hands tightly clenching into fists. You don't know what my real identity is. You have no idea what kind of calamity will befall you if you get close to me. He moved his lips, wanting to say a cold farewell, but when the words reached his mouth, he couldn't utter a single syllable because his throat was dry. So many years, so many years. The Xiaoyao sect was his only resting place. Qi Wen, his master, and these people in front of him were the only warmth and hope he had left in this life. If, even they lost. If, even standing under the same blue sky as Mayan, looking at her from afar, guarding her would not have the qualifications, what would be left of his life? He had tried so hard to find those things, tried so hard to survive, but for what? Little Martial Uncle, say something. Just say that you won't leave the cultivation world, okay? It's fine even if little Martial Uncle left. When we ascend, we can still go look for him. When the time comes, the carefree sect will reunite. Luo Yunxiao could no longer control the surging emotions in her chest and the tears that seeped into her eyes. She abruptly turned around. Little Martial Uncle. Stop quarreling. Luo Yunxiao said in a hoarse voice, when one of you comes out of the real blood-slaughtering sword array alive, I'll naturally come to check. Now that the whole world knows that I'm a member of the Xiaoyao sect, you'd better not embarrass me. After saying that, he disappeared into the sky like a shooting star, without waiting for the 7 people to react. The 7 people were stunned at first, then burst into laughter. Chapter 2667. Where's the promised gentle and caring fiancé, too? It was great that little Uncle Master would not leave. However, when they turned around and saw God's expressionless face, the 7 of them were instantly terrified. Instructor Mo, we were wrong. Teacher Mo, we were just talking nonsense. Can you pretend you didn't hear us? Di Mingju sneers, it seems that cultivation is still too easy, that's why you have the energy to plot against Ben Jun behind my back. The few of them shuddered. Since that's the case, in the next few days, all of you should properly train in my small world. Di Mingju has many small worlds. However, most small worlds were based on immortal qi and could only be opened in the cultivation continent. There were only 2 small worlds based on spiritual qi. Every single one of them was extremely dangerous. Even if one didn't die, they would definitely lose a layer of skin. Moreover, the flow of time in the pocket dimension was different from that in the outside world. A month of torture in the pocket dimension might only be a few days in the real world. Back then, Luo Yu and the others hadn't been able to awaken their domains in time and had been thrown into the abyss once. That feeling of being in the abyss of suffering was still a bitter and tearful memory. When they heard this, they immediately wailed. Luo Yu looks at Mayan with tearful pleading eyes. 6th senior sister, hurry up and act like a spoiled child to Instructor Mo. At the very least, you have to stay in the small world for half a month less. Mu Yan looks up at Di Mingju. Di Mingju slowly approaches her, his warm breath against her ear. The magnetic voice is deep and rich, with the sexiest rhythm, making Mayan almost intoxicated. You've put yourself in danger time and again. Your punishment will be doubled. Mu Yan flips the table, intoxicated my ass. What happened to the gentle and caring fiancé? On the other side, seeing the handsome man embracing Mayan in his arms, the female cultivators who had just rushed out of the 9 Palaces Bagua formation are all dumbfounded. Gua Yun replied in a daze, I just said that apart from young Master Yun Xiao, no one else in this world is worthy of Jun Imosia. But I feel like I've been slapped in the face. Who was this man? He was obviously stronger than young Master Yun Xiao. His pressure was even stronger than young Master Yun Xiao's. His face, Gua Yun lowered her head in fear. This man's aura was too high and mighty, making people not dare to look directly at his face. The moment he appeared, all they wanted was to unconsciously submit to him. However, even if it was just a glance, one could tell how outstanding this man's appearance was. He was not inferior to young Master Yun Xiao in the slightest. She saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman cuddling together. Even if there were no intimate actions, Gua Yun could only blush and her heart was beating fast. Then, she heard the conversation between Ilanxin and Zhu Wan. In this world, there isn't a single stinky man who is worthy of Mississippi. He saved Miss just now, and Miss likes him. He's barely acceptable. Humph, you're a man. It's good to have some fun now. When Miss reaches the pinnacle of cultivation in the future and rules the world, how many gigolos can't she keep? Mu Yen and Di Ming Ju, who have especially good hearing. Mu Yen, what's going on with you guys being even more arrogant than me? You can still play. You are definitely the only sovereign monarchs in the world who are not afraid of death. Cough, cough. Di Ming Ju, calm down, calm down. Mu Yan promptly grabbed the man who was about to start a massacre. They just suffered too much in this Fusang city, so their mentality is abnormal now. Chapter 2668. What did her mother experience? 1. As he spoke, he recounted everything that had happened in Fusang City. Hearing about the dangers that Mu Yan experienced in Fusang City, Di Ming Ju's face is completely gloomy. The coldness emitted from his body seems to tear the whole city apart. Mu Yan believes that if there is still one person alive in Fusang City, he would have already been annihilated by Di Ming Ju. She quickly turns to look at Wang Miao. Where is the beauty cave that you mentioned before? Take us there now. The beauty cave. Hearing Lang Yuma's question, Mu Yan remembers that her fellow apprentices still don't know about it. She repeats Wang Miao's words. Ling Yuma pursed her pale lips and looked at Wang Miao when she heard that her mother had been locked up there and ended up like this. Please bring me there to have a look. Wang Miao quickly leads everyone to the ruins next to the city lord's mansion. Fusang City has long been destroyed, but the beauty cave is underground. So, after removing the bricks and tiles, an intact cave entrance is revealed. But the cave entrance is blocked by a boulder, and the top of the boulder is covered with complicated runes. Ling Yuma's knife slashes down. The runes emit a faint light, but the boulder doesn't move. Mu Yan suddenly realizes, oh no, I seem to have made a big mistake. The entrance of the beauty cave needs the disc of the 10 ultimate formation to open, but the disc was taken away by Junior Master. No, I have to find a way to call Junior Master back. Boom. Before Mu Yan can finish her words, she sees the boulder that was like an iron wall collapsing and turning into powder. The runes on the boulder don't even have a chance to flash. Mu Yan turns to look at Di Ming Ju. She sees the man's icy blue eyes holding a sneer. The corners of his mouth slightly hooks up, and he says slowly, who do you want to call back? Mu Yan's eyes suddenly shine. She hugs his hand and smiles like a flower. No one, just you is enough. Who made my man invincible? Di Ming Ju snorts and takes the girl next to him to walk in first. However, the unconcealable smile on his face revealed his true feelings. The other people of the Xiaoyao school didn't notice it, but they felt lucky that the entrance of the beauty cave was opened. Only Chu Moli, who was sitting in a wheelchair and being pushed by Qin Zhou, couldn't help but shake his head. He thought to himself, so even the polar domain's sovereign monarch will be as competitive as a male peacock in front of the woman he loves. How childish. After entering the beauty cave, the relaxed and cheerful atmosphere vanished into thin air. If Fusang City was said to be a hell where demons tortured women. As for the beauty cave, it was an abyss of despair where even the 7 emotions and 6 desires were gradually worn away. There were only a few women imprisoned in the beauty cave, only a dozen in total. But at this moment, there were less than 5 who could maintain their consciousness and speak. Wang Miao's face was full of sorrow as he said, those bastards rarely lock up women in the beauty Denver. Even if they do, it's only for a few days at most. That's because women who are locked up here for a long time will eventually become puppets who have lost their minds and senses. Those bastards think that torturing such women is too boring. Only those who don't have any value, or those who resist too fiercely, and can't be tamed, would be sent here. Being locked up here for more than 10 days is tantamount to being completely crippled. No matter how resolute that person's mind was, or how high their cultivation was, the end result would be the same. Chapter 2669. What exactly did her mother go through? 2. Asking for votes, Ling Yuma gritted her teeth and forced back the tears that welled up in her eyes. She tried to walk into one of the caves in the beauty cave. In a split second, all of her senses were completely emptied. It was as if she was in a boundless black hole, isolated from everything around her. Darkness and loneliness were endless and followed him wherever he went. She had only felt it for a moment, but it was already so unbearable. How long had her mother experienced this feeling? What kind of torment did she endure to finally have a mental breakdown and become like this? Why? Why did her mother have to endure this? Who caused her to be sent to Fu Sang City? Who caused her to be sent to Fu Sang City? Raging anger and hatred gushed out from the depths of her body. The most important part of the beauty cave's formation was destroyed by Di Mingju. The originally unbreakable shackles also began to loosen. Ling Yuma's aura surged. She released the raging flame domain, and a ball of flame sprang up from behind her. In an instant, it turned into a blazing red lotus, blooming layer by layer. Has fourth junior sister's cultivation improved? What's that red lotus behind her? I don't think I've seen it before. Chu Moli slightly narrowed his eyes, revealing a thoughtful expression. This red lotus seemed somewhat familiar. When the last petal of the red lotus bloomed, suddenly, the dark cave suddenly lit up with a sparkling white light. A soft and low voice slowly echoed in the void. I know that I can no longer hold on, and have no intention of continuing to live. I will leave this message at the risk of my soul dispersing and never being able to reincarnate, just to pray that one day, someone will be able to save my young miss from this purgatory on earth. My name is Hong Mian, the personal maid of the eldest miss of the Yunlingling family, Ling Wolin. If one day, someone hears my words, I only ask you to send the news that the young miss is imprisoned in Fu Sang City back to the Ling family. Ling Yuma raised her head. She saw a faintly discernible figure in the void. She knew Hong Mian. She was her mother's personal maid, and also the person who raised her and accompanied her when she was young. She could no longer hold back her tears and they rolled down her cheeks. Ling Yuma called out softly, Auntie Hong. Auntie Hong, don't worry. I will bring my mother away from here. I will never let anyone hurt her again. However, it was obvious that the people in the void could not hear her. Hong Mian's figure grew fainter and fainter, and her voice grew softer and softer. That was the sign of her soul being completely exhausted. Suddenly, Hong Mian seemed to have recalled something, and she shrieked loudly. Tell the patriarch that it was Ling Shuqin. It was that vicious woman, Ling Shuqin, who harmed young Miss. In order to marry into the Lien family, she bribed young Mrs. Steward, Ling Gang, and placed the heart lock on young Miss, framing young Miss and Willow Guqing for adultery. Lian Sheng. Lian Sheng is so ruthless. Back then, young lady treated him so wholeheartedly, and he already had an affair with Ling Shuqin. He even watched as that bastard Willow Valley City took young lady away. At this point, Hong Mian's voice trembled and sounded distant, as if it was on the verge of dissipating. You're the eldest miss of the Ling clan. Why are you being humiliated and tortured here? God is unfair. God is unfair. Finally, Hong Mian's figure completely dissipated. However, Ling Yuma completely allowed the blood to stain her eyes. She gritted her teeth tightly, and her voice was like that of an Asura from hell. Ling Shuqin, what a Ling Shuqin. The debt you owe my mother, I will definitely make you pay 1,000 times over. It's the beginning of the month. Z is here to ask for monthly votes. La la la. Chapter 2670. Ungrateful brute, get out of the Lien family. 1. Boom. The red lotus that was blooming on Leng Yuma's back soars into the sky, suddenly turning into a glaring light and exploding in the beauty cave. As soon as the red mist dissipates, Mayan has already thought that it's not good. She wants to rush up, but is stopped by Di Mingju. Di Mingju casually releases a protective cover, enclosing the people in the cave. He lightly says, "The power of the bloodline is a good thing, there is no need to interfere." The power of the bloodline. As Mayan stares blankly, the entire beauty cave has already collapsed. A red light soars into the sky, blooming like a red lotus in the sky. When the smoke and fire dissipates, Leng Yuma's face is deathly pale. She can no longer hold on, her body swaying slightly, and she falls down. Fourth sister. Mayan and the others quickly rush over to catch her. After diagnosing that she's just exhausted spiritual power and divine sense, and is too weak, they are relieved. Did you hear? That Lien family's matriarch was caught having an affair with someone. She was on the bed, not even wearing clothes. Oh, it's really embarrassing. Heavens! Is this true or false? Isn't the matriarch of the Lien family Rollercoasters fairy? I heard that she was born in a prestigious family. When the Lien family's master married Rollercoasters fairy, I don't know how many people said that he climbed up the social ladder. Hee, what bullshit fairy, she's just a fickle woman. After being caught having an affair, the Lien family's master couldn't bear to divorce her, and wanted her to go to the ancestral hall to reflect. I didn't expect that this heartless woman would abandon her husband and daughter, and run away with the adulterer. TSK, wouldn't that Miss Lien be very miserable? In the future, who would want to marry the daughter of an adulterer? Leng Yuma tightly closes her eyes, her face showing a pained and resentful expression. She sees the people in her dreams surrounding her, constantly mocking her and insulting her mother. Your mother is a shameless slut, and you're a little slut. Hee, no wonder the Liang family doesn't want her. Who knows if she will have an affair like her mother in the future. Leng Yuma sees that her younger self can no longer bear it. She throws a punch and sends the speaker flying. The scene changed, and he arrived at the Leng clan's main hall. The tall, dignified man sent a heavy slap over. Leng Yuma, who was only a teenager at that time, had blood seeping out of her mouth. She could not get up for a long time. Her father, Lien Xing, the patriarch of the Lien family, looked down at her like a towering mountain, pressing down on her until she couldn't breathe. However, Leng Yuma did not retreat at all. She only stared at him with hatred in her eyes. Evil girl, what kind of expression is that? Lien Sheng was infuriated by the look in her eyes. He slapped her again in the air. Am I wrong to discipline you? Who asked you to stir up trouble outside? A gloating laughter came from the side. It's true that the kind of mother raises the kind of daughter. How good can Leng Roland's upbringing be? In my opinion, we should expel her from the Lien family and let her fend for herself. Yeah. Yun Xiang is much more obedient. Even though they are about the same age, the little bastard raised by that shameless woman can't be seen in public. You're not allowed to slander my mother. Leng Yuma roared and clawed at the man who spoke. That person was caught off guard and was scratched by Leng Yuma until his face was covered in blood. Lien Sheng was completely infuriated, and he kicked the girl away fiercely. Leng Yuma spat out a mouthful of blood and was unable to get up for a long time. Chapter 2671. Ungrateful bastard, get out of the Lien family. 2. Lien Sheng gritted his teeth and said, look at what you are now. That is your uncle, how dare you make a move on an elder? Is this what Leng Roland taught you? Ling Yuma said loudly, "What kind of elder is he? What right does he have to slander my mother?" Lian Xing was so angry that his face turned ashen. Ling Wolin and Willow Guqing had an affair. Everyone in the Lian family saw it with their own eyes. Did I wrongly accuse her? What did your uncle say wrong? You said my mother had an affair, then what about you? Ling Yuma suddenly stood up and pointed at a weak woman with a delicate and pitiful appearance. She roared hysterically, "You and this bitch's daughter is only a few months younger than me. Didn't you already have an affair with someone else? You even let this woman enter the house. What right do you have to criticize my mother? You are the fickle, shameless, and ungrateful one." Lian Xing's face turned green and white. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. "You evil girl! You bastard, I will kill you today so that you won't lose the face of the Lian family one day." With that, Lian Xing pulled out his long sword and was about to stab Ling Yuma. However, very quickly, the weak woman rushed forward and grabbed Lian Xing's arm. She said softly, "Brother Xing, calm down. Don't be angry. After all, Yuma is my sister's only flesh and blood. My sister did such a thing, I am also very sad. However, the Ling family has been kind to me. Brother Xing, can you let Yuma go?" With that, she looked at Ling Yuma with a gentle gaze. Her words were filled with the intention of teaching. "Yuma, you've gone too far with your words today. Brother Xing is a man and the head of the Lian family. It is only right that he has 3 wives and 4 concubines. How can you speak to Brother Xing like this because of these things? After all, he is your father." The man whose face was scratched by Ling Yuma immediately said, "On the road of cultivation, which powerful man doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? My big brother is a tribulation-passing cultivator and the Lian clan's patriarch. So what if he has a few women? What's more, Ling Wolin has been married into our Lian family for so many years, but she hasn't even given birth to a son. She only has you, a waste of money. My big brother didn't divorce her, that's already not letting her down." In the main hall, the members of the Lian clan echoed in unison, mocking him incessantly. This caused Ling Yuma's heart to sink into an icy valley. She suddenly threw her head back and laughed out loud. A young girl's voice was supposed to be clear and melodious, but at this moment, it was stained with the hoarseness of a cuckoo crying blood. "Lian Xing, do you remember the promise you made to my mother when you fell in love with her? You said that you would be with her for the rest of your life. You said that she gave you the chance to be reborn. Without my mother, you would still be a cripple. You wouldn't even be able to break through the stage of fasting. You said that you would never disappoint my mother. So, this is your oath. It's cheaper, dirtier, and more disgusting than the mud in the sewers." Lian Xing's expression at this time could no longer be described as ugly. He looked at Ling Yuma with a crazed rage and killing intent. The Lian clan's patriarch relied on Ling Wolin, the eldest daughter of the Ling clan, to prosper. This fact was an eternal pain and stain in Lian Xing's heart. And now, this stain was exposed by Ling Yuma in front of everyone. Chapter 2672. Ungrateful bastard, get out of the Lian family. 3. Lian Xing couldn't hold it in any longer. He mobilized the spiritual power in his body and blasted it towards Ling Yuma's chest. Ling Yuma flew out and landed on the cold bluestone floor of the Lian family's courtyard. She only felt as if the veins in her body were breaking apart inch by inch. It was as if there was a hand in her dantian, turning all the results of her cultivation over the years into nothing. Pain and coldness seized all her senses, and blood blurred her vision. She could only vaguely see Lian Xing's tall figure walking in front of her. "What do you think you have left without the identity of the eldest daughter of the Lian family? You were raised by me, I gave you a supreme identity, and gave you the best cultivation resources. You ungrateful bastard, is this how you repay me? Lianxing sneered, since you're so powerful, why don't you get out of the Lian family now? From now on, don't use the Lian family's name to swindle people, and don't say that you're my daughter. Yuma, quickly say that you know you're wrong. Your father did it for your own good, you can't be so ungrateful. Ling Yuma opened her eyes with difficulty. In a blur of blood, she saw Lianxing high above and Ling Shuqin, who had a gentle face but couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. Then, the scarred girl got up from the ground without hesitation, dragged the blood all over the ground, and walked out of the Lian family's gate step by step. From now on, she was no longer Lian Yuma. From now on, she had nothing to do with the Lian family. Even if she had no father, no mother, no family, no relatives, she could still live. She would definitely continue to live on. Fourth senior sister, wake up. Ling Yuma slowly opened her eyes. Great, fourth senior sister is awake. Yuma, how do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Little junior sister, fourth senior sister's fever has gone down. Is she going to recover soon? Ling Yuma blinked her eyes and met pairs of concerned and nervous eyes. The coldness, anger, and despair in the dream slowly left her. Only the warmth of reality remained. Very quickly, a porcelain white hand was placed on her forehead, and her wrist was clasped to feel her pulse. Congratulations, fourth senior sister, for activating the power of your bloodline. Your strength has reached a new level. Ling Yuma blinked her eyes. Bloodline power. Her voice was dry and hoarse, as if something had burned her body. Mu Yan promptly feeds her a pill. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, like a clear spring slowly flowing between his tongue and mouth. His originally dried-up body was instantly injected with vitality. Ling Yuma sat up from the bed and smacked her lips. This is a 10th grade, yang returning pill. If I were to sell it in the #1 shop in the world, I wonder how many spar I could sell it for. It's not like I'm terminally ill. Why are you giving me this, junior sister? Mayan touches her nose, really. I originally wanted to take the water spirit pill, but there were too many pills in the space, so I took the wrong one. Yilanxin and Zhu Wan, who had just walked into the room with the prepared food, almost fell to the ground when they heard this. A 10th grade, yang returning pill. That's a 10th grade, yang returning pill. How could this thing be taken out by mistake? Ling Yuma, oh. Wait a minute, you casually ate a 10th grade, yang returning pill, why is there this kind of reaction? Chapter 2673. Worthless, jelly beans. 1. Was it because they had been locked up in Fusang City for too long that they misunderstood the current elixir market of the Shuzhen continent? Ling Yuma smacked her lips again. The taste is really good, it's a little sweet, my whole body and mind feel comfortable. It's really worthy of being a top-notch elixir. Luo Yute said, the Snow Soul elixir tastes good too. If you get injured during cultivation, just one would make your whole body feel comfortable. There's also a fragrance. It's just that the taste is too good, I accidentally ate it all. Ling Yuxing, the foundation pill tastes just as so-so. Although the effect is also good, it's too bitter, not tasty at all. Mu Yan casually threw a bottle of elixir to each of the 6, take it and eat as much as you like, I'll give you more when you're done. In any case, she couldn't sell these elixirs even if she wanted to. Recently, Laozi #1 Under Heaven Store and Liang Chen's army have been handed over to Chu Tianyu to manage. This guy's brain is surprisingly good in this aspect. After Laozi #1 Under Heaven Store took over, the monthly income of crystals didn't change much from before. But in fact, Mu Yan also received countless treasures for alchemy. It turns out that lousy number 1 under Heaven Store's preferential treatment for Liang Chen's army hasn't changed. However, those ordinary cultivators who want to buy Liang Chen's elixirs always have to queue for months. After Chu Tianyu took office, he immediately made an announcement. Every month, lousy number 1 under Heaven Store would publish a list of elixirs to purchase. Whoever could gather all the elixirs on the list the fastest would be able to purchase them much earlier. Even if they couldn't gather all of them, they could also advance the order of purchase accordingly. In this way, the people in Tianguang ruins would either break their heads to join Liang Chen's army, or desperately gather elixirs in exchange for their own priority to purchase. In this way, Mu Yan doesn't have to pay any cost, and can just sit and wait for the crystals to be collected every month. One must know that in the King of Medicine's inheritance space, 1 day is equivalent to 12 days. With sufficient elixirs, the number of elixirs she could refine every day is immeasurable. Especially after her alchemy skills gradually improved, it wouldn't be a problem for her to refine a batch of Quasi-King elixirs every day. But Chu Tianyu insisted that she only provide a certain amount of 10th and 9th elixirs every day. Quasi-King pills were refused to be sold to outsiders and were only awarded to those who had made outstanding contributions in Liang Chen's army. Chu Tianyu called it hunger sales. In short, the result was that more and more people wanted to buy Yi Liangchen's pills and join his army. Every elixir was sold at a sky-high price in the Tianguang ruins. Yi Liangchen's reputation was like the sun in the sky, and no one in the Tianguang ruins could rival him. But at the same time, Mu Yan has accumulated a large pile of elixirs in her hands, and she can't use them. The people of the Carefree sect always ate rank 9 and rank 10 medicinal pills like they were candy, but they couldn't eat enough. Fortunately, Zhu Wan and the others had joined them. In addition, the strength of the Netherflame army was getting stronger and stronger. Mu Yan believes that the pills that she has accumulated in her hands will eventually be used up, right? If the other practitioners of the Shuzhen continent knew of Mayan's thoughts, they would definitely want to drown her with their saliva. Ordinary cultivators would have to pay a hefty price to obtain a Tier 7 pill. Unless one was a nascent soul cultivator, they might not even have seen a rank 8 or rank 9 medicinal pill. Needless to say, Tier 10 medicinal pills were exclusively enjoyed by cultivators at the peak of leaving body stage or passing tribulation stage. But now, Mu Yan thinks that there are too many of these medicinal pills, and she has nowhere to use them. Are you living in the same Shuzhen continent as us? Chapter 2674. Worthless Jelly Beans, 2, asking for tickets. At this time, Zhu Wan and Yilanxin, who are listening on the side, are having such shock and self-doubt in their hearts. When was a 10th grade elixir not a treasure that everyone would scramble for? Instead, they were jelly beans that could be picked and chosen. When was it that 10th grade elixirs weren't auctioned at a sky-high price, but could be casually given out in bottles? The point is that Great God Jun just casually gave them away. The people of the Xiaoyao sect aren't shocked at all. They casually take them, and then stuff one into their mouths. Mayan turns her head and sees them staring at the porcelain bottles. She thinks for a moment, and hands them a few bottles of elixir. Your spiritual roots and physical bodies are too weak, and can't withstand too strong a potency. First take the 9th grade consolidating pill to recuperate. As for the others, their cultivations are even weaker. At most, they can only withstand the 8th grade consolidating pill. Take it and let them take it. Then, Yilanxin and Zhu Wan leave together in a trance. When they reach the door, the two suddenly turn around, and their eyes are already red. Yilanxin chokes with sobs. "Miss, I said before that I hate you for dragging me back to hell. I want to take back what I said. The luckiest thing that happened to me in this life is to meet you. Zhu Wan, I have nothing else to ask for in this life. I only hope to be able to accompany Miss, never to separate, before Zhu Wan could say the last word, separate, the door has already slammed shut in front of their eyes. Di Mingju embraces her in his arms, and says through gritted teeth, if they stay by your side, then what is Ben Jun? Mayan bursts out laughing, Jun Shangdaran, how can you eat this kind of vinegar? If they stay by my side, I will only stay by yours, okay? No. Di Mingju grits his teeth, it's enough for you to have Ben Jun and Xiao Bao by your side. Hearing Xiao Bao's name, Mayan is shaken, and the smile on her face slowly fades. She really, really misses Xiao Bao. However, she knows that no matter how much she misses him, no matter how reluctant she is, she can't stop Xiao Bao from growing stronger. Otherwise, one day, she would be the one who would regret it the most. Di Mingju naturally sees what she's thinking. He reaches out and gently caresses her cheek, softly saying, Ben Jun said that our family will always be together. Xiao Bao is doing very well, and his speed of growth is astonishing. I won't allow you to feel sad for that little bastard, do you hear me? Mayan smiles, Di Mingju, do you know how to comfort people or not? Di Mingju sneers. With a wave of his hand, a door of light appeared in the room. He said slowly, a monarch does not go back on his words. It's time for you to receive your punishment. It was a portal to a small world. The Xiaoyao's 7 sons trembled as they looked at their teacher Mo. Sob. Teacher Mo was even stricter and scarier than their little martial uncle. Di Mingju ruthlessly says, do you want Ben Jun to throw you in? The 7 of them shuddered and plunged into the portal without hesitation. Mu Yan was the last one to walk towards the portal. She stops at the door of light and turns to look at Di Mingju. Her peach blossom eyes are like limpid autumn waters, as if something is about to overflow. Di Mingju, will I still be able to see you after I come out? The coldness in Di Mingju's eyes slowly dissipates, turning into a bone-piercing gentleness. Of course, I will wait here for you to come out. The girl in front of the door smiles, and without hesitation, she walks in. Thus, she didn't hear the man's soft words behind her, Yen Yen, wait for you to come out, Ben Jun will have a surprise for you. Did you notice, Z has added more chapters? My dears, where are your tickets for the beginning of the month? Chapter 2675. Their baby is back. 1. Mu Yan's group of 7 entered the small world almost one after the other, but the places they appeared in were completely different. The dizziness caused by the teleportation had just disappeared. Mu Yan felt the sword qi assaulting her. Without hesitation, she took out the 7 absolute sword and blocked the whistling attack. Tens of thousands of sword qis came in an endless stream. Mu Yan doesn't even have a moment to rest. His spiritual power was exhausted again and again. When she couldn't block it, the sword qi cut her body, and the pain went deep into her bones. Fresh blood sprayed in the air and landed on the sword qi. Once the sword qi had absorbed a certain amount of HP, it would slowly retreat. But as long as Mayan recovers more than 70% of her spiritual power, the next wave of attacks will come again. But what's worse is that Mu Yan has managed to grasp the trajectory of the countless swords with great difficulty. However, the second wave of attacks changed. She could only see the densely packed light spots in the sky smashing towards her like meteors. Puchi. Mu Yan's body was hit by the speck of light. The wound wasn't very deep, but it was a heart-wrenching pain. She wields the 7 supreme swordplay airtight, but there are too many light spots. If this goes on, her arms won't be able to support it before she runs out of wacken. In order to block the attack of these light dots, the only way was to use group attacks against Qinggong. Without the slightest hesitation, Mayan calls out the Tian Mo Qin. Her 10 fingers pluck the strings, and the music flows. Musical blade, activated. In this small world, Mu Yan has finally experienced what is called a hellish level of abnormal cultivation. Compared to this small world, youngest uncle's blood slaughter sword formation did not seem so difficult to endure. Mu Yan doesn't know how much time has passed. She only knew that in the small world, her life was only fighting, fighting, and fighting. She had to endure pain, exhaustion, and loneliness. Day after day, moment after moment, that kind of torture was not something that ordinary physical injuries could compare to. While fighting, Mu Yan ridicules Di Mingju. Who would torture his fiancée to death like that? This bastard couldn't be thinking of killing him so he could find a new lover, right? However, amidst this torment, Mu Yan suddenly discovered that she had broken through. As early as a month ago, Mu Yan had just advanced to the nascent soul stage. Because she cultivated a perfect nascent soul cultivation technique, each realm only contained 2 small realms. First rank and peak rank. Mu Yan doesn't know how long she has stayed in Di Mingju's small world. But definitely not more than a month, and the flow of time in the small world and the real world was different. In reality, only 3 days had passed. So, in less than 2 months, she advanced from the first level of nascent soul to the peak of nascent soul, and was only 1 step away from the astral projection. In reality, it had only taken Mu Yan less than 2 years to reach the leaving body realm from the time she started cultivating in the cultivation continent to the point where she was about to reach the leaving body realm. This kind of advancement speed, this kind of shocking talent, if this news were to spread, it would definitely make everyone's heart explode. A ray of light slowly rises from Mayan's body. The attack in the sky dissipated instantly after sensing this light. A door of light appeared behind her. This was the passage that would send her out of the small world. Mu Yan takes a deep breath and is about to step into the door of light when she suddenly stops in her tracks. She slowly turned around and looked at the sword gleam floating in the sky. Her heart skipped a beat. Something suddenly became clear in his heart. In Fusang City, Zhu Wan and Enchanting were anxiously waiting outside the room. The miss and the others had been locked up in the room for 3 days, and there was no news at all. Chapter 2676. Their baby is back, too. Elon wanted to check it out. But as soon as she thinks of that noble and indifferent godlike man, she can't muster up the courage. That man's aura is really too astonishing. It's as if he was born to be respected and aloof. Even if the women from Fusang City hate men, they can't feel even the slightest bit of resentment when they see this person, only full of awe and submission. Enchanting says with a calm face, "Why doesn't that man let us see Miss? Does he want to lock Miss up and use her as a prison?" Zhu Wan sneers, "Those dog men in high positions, which one of them isn't so selfish, cowardly, and narrow-minded? Miss's appearance is so outstanding, and her talent is so amazing, which man doesn't want to confine her by his side?" The other female cultivators' eyes are also boiling with tears and anger. Those men like to say, "I love you too much, so I don't want other men to look at you. I don't want you to leave me, so I confine you by my side." Bullshit. Breaking my wings, cutting off all my escape routes, forcing me to rely on him. If this is love, then I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life. Enchanting suddenly stands up from her seat. Could it be that that man also wants to imprison Miss in the name of love? Even those people from the Xiaoyao school, because they resisted, they were killed. No. The Xiaoyao 7 sons are our saviors, and Miss is like our second parent. We can't just sit by and watch that man imprison Miss, letting Miss follow in our footsteps. That's right, Miss is destined to make great contributions. How can she be confined in a small backyard, wasting away and dying of old age? I absolutely won't allow it. Even if I have to give up my life, I won't hesitate. Hundreds of female cultivators, who haven't fully recovered from their injuries, recklessly rush to the house where Mayan and the others are temporarily staying. Even if their hearts are filled with fear, even if their hands are trembling, they still pluck up their courage and fiercely knock on the door. There's a creaking sound, and the door is slowly opened. However, Enchanting, who knocks on the door, finds that there's no one on the other side. Wait, how did the door open? She clearly heard footsteps just now. Who are you looking for? A crisp and tender voice rings out. Enchanting suddenly came back to her senses and slowly lowered her head. The next moment, her eyes widened in shock. Her lips opened and closed for a long time, but she couldn't say a single word. The first thing he saw was a little doll that looked like it was carved out of jade, so beautiful that it didn't seem like a real person. He was clearly only 5 or 6 years old, but his little face was tense and his blue eyes were calm. His whole body exuded an innate noble and cold temperament. However, this was not the main point. The main point was, why did this little doll look 70% to 80% similar to their young miss? Did they go to the wrong place? What about that godlike, terrifying man? Enchanting's lips trembled for a long time before she finally asked intermittently, Miss. She. As soon as he said that, a loud rumble came from inside the house. This hall was originally the worry-free hall, where the 100-flower feast was held. All the rooms were constructed with excellent materials. But in this loud noise, all the glazed windows in the entire worry-free palace were shattered. Then, cracks appeared on the surrounding walls. In the end, it couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. Enchanting and the others were stunned by this unforeseen event. Chapter 2677. Their baby is back. 3. Enchanting and the others were dumbstruck by this turn of events. When they reacted to what happened, their expressions changed and they cried out, Young Miss is still inside, and the Xiaoyao sects. Before she could finish her sentence, she saw the huge rubble that had collapsed suddenly explode. Then, a familiar voice came, Paw paw paw. What the hell, are the houses in Fu Sang City this bad? Just a simple energy shock and it exploded. I was almost blown to death. Enchanting opened her eyes wide and looked at Leng Yuma, who crawled out of the rubble. Leng. Young Miss Leng, are you okay? No. How is it just okay? Apart from looking a bit battered, Leng Yuma was completely unharmed and her cultivation had even advanced. Now, her cultivation had already advanced from the peak of gold core to the 5th level of nascent soul. If they remembered correctly, this was only 3 days, a short 3 days. How could a person advance so much in 3 days? After Leng Yuma crawled out of the rubble, she didn't even have time to look in this direction before she looked behind her and laughed. 2nd senior brother, 3rd senior brother, 5th junior brother, I am now at the 5th level of nascent soul. How was your harvest in Instructor Mo's small world? Enchanting was startled when she heard this and immediately looked towards the rubble. She saw Qin Jiu carrying Chu Moli in his wheelchair as he crawled out. Qin Jiu's cultivation was already at the 7th level of nascent soul. And Chu Moli had also reached the 3rd level of nascent soul. After Qin Jiu and Chu Moli crawled out, everyone only saw a figure flash before their eyes. A refreshing young man was already standing in front of everyone. Ling Yuxing. His current speed was already so fast that even the naked eye couldn't catch his movements. His cultivation was the same as Leng Yuma's, also at the 5th level of nascent soul. Ling Yuxing's gaze turned and suddenly saw the little boy at the side. His eyes suddenly widened. Xiao Bao. Before he finished his sentence, his figure had already disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he hugged the little boy in his arms and said excitedly, Xiao Bao, you really came back. Xiao Bao's delicate little face was slightly red. He tried his best to keep a straight face, but his big eyes were bright. Fifth martial uncle. Little treasure. Ling Yuma and Qin Jiu regained their senses and rushed over. Ling Yuma took Xiao Bao from Ling Yuxing's embrace and kissed him heavily on his face. Oh, it's really our obedient Xiao Bao. I really missed fourth martial uncle to death. Qin Jiu smiled foolishly. Xiao Bao, you're back. Good. Xiao Bao blushed and pushed Ling Yuma away. He said seriously, men and women should not touch each other. Fourth martial uncle, you should respect yourself. It had been a long time since Ling Yuma heard Xiao Bao speak like an old pedant with a straight face. He was so amused that he started to laugh. After pushing Ling Yuma away, Xiao Bao obediently shouted, Xiao Bao greets second martial uncle, third martial uncle, fourth martial uncle and fifth martial uncle. Ling Yuma said with a smile, Xiao Bao, we all missed you to death. Do you miss martial uncle and martial uncle? Xiao Bao pursed his lips and lowered his long eyelashes. After a long while, he finally squeezed out a word, yes. This time, not to mention Ling Yuma, even the other three were amused by his little appearance. What are you all laughing at? A calm voice sounded. Yun Ruhan's figure sprang out of the ruins, and a powerful aura instantly spread out. The palace, which had been mostly destroyed, didn't even have a single piece of rubble left. Chapter 2678. Their baby is back, fourth, begging for votes, eldest senior brother. Ling Yuma and the others exclaimed happily, you broke through to level 9 nascent soul. Yun Ruhan put away the ice soul sword, but she didn't have time to be happy about her cultivation advancing by leaps and bounds. Instead, she flew to Xiao Bao and smiled. Xiao Bao, you're back. Xiao Bao raised his head and greeted obediently, eldest senior uncle. The childish voice was soft, but it could melt a person's heart. Yun Ruhan looked at Xiao Bao and felt like she was looking at the distant past. Her heart softened. He took out all kinds of treasures from his pocket. Xiao Bao, eldest senior uncle bought these for you. See if you like them. Ling Yuma said, damn, eldest senior brother is actually this playful on the inside. His way of fighting for favor in front of Xiao Bao has completely surpassed us. Ling Yuxing said gloomily, why didn't I think of saving gifts? That way, I can give them to Xiao Bao when he comes. Xiao Bao met Yun Ruhan's expectant gaze and didn't refuse. He used his short hands to collect the things and put them in his storage ring. He even said obediently, thank you, eldest senior uncle. Yun Ruhan smiled and looked at the ruins again. Only little junior sister and Xiao Qi haven't come out yet. Xiao Bao also looked at the ruins. He clenched his fists tightly. Mother. Mother, Xiao Bao really wants to see you soon. Mother, can you come out quickly? Xiao Bao really misses you. As if to respond to Xiao Bao's thoughts, a melodious zither sound came from the ruins and reverberated between heaven and earth. A dazzling rainbow light blossomed from the ruins along with the zither sound. Xiao Bao's eyes suddenly opened wide, and he couldn't be bothered about anything else as he charged towards the ruins with large strides. Boom! Powerful energy exploded, and rocks flew everywhere. Yun Ruhan and the others were startled and quickly shouted, Xiao Bao, come back. It's dangerous there. The small world was filled with energy turbulence because of the attack. That was why there was such a powerful explosion when they came out. Although this kind of energy explosion wouldn't kill a golden core cultivator. However, it was inevitable that he would be heavily injured. Moreover, little Bao was still so small. What if he was swallowed by the energy vortex? Ling Yuxing took a step forward and instantly dashed dozens of meters away. He was about to embrace Xiao Bao. However, the next moment, something that made the seven of them dumbfounded happened. When the energy turbulence approached Xiao Bao, his body emitted a faint blue light. Soon after, the energy turbulence that could destroy a palace was completely devoured and destroyed. The little handsome boy was still clean, not even a strand of his hair was out of place. Ling Yuxing couldn't help but swallow. How strong is Xiao Bao now? Could it be that he was stronger than them? Ling Yuma, who was at the back, could not help but wail, as martial uncles, it can't be that we can't beat little martial nephew, right? How are we going to show our faces in the future? At this moment, little Bao couldn't be bothered about all of that. His eyes were fixed in the direction of the seven-colored light. The pile of rubble seemed to be pulled by some kind of force and floated in the air, revealing a passage. A snow-white figure with fluttering clothes slowly appeared from the passageway. "Mother!" Xiao Bao shouted. His whole body soared into the air and crashed into that familiar embrace. The Xiao Bao that you've been longing for is here. Chapter 2679. I owe you too much, so I'll use everything I have to pay it back. 1. The longing and loneliness can no longer be suppressed, turning into a low sob that wets her snow-white clothes. Nyangqin, can you hug me? Xiao Bao misses you so much. Mayan's figure suddenly freezes, and she slowly lowers her head. Her trembling eyes meet the little face that she's yearning for day and night. In those big ice blue eyes, big drops of sparkling and translucent tears roll down, falling onto her hands, bringing a scorching heat. It also makes her finally convinced that everything she's seen and heard is true. Xiao Bao. Mayan suddenly reaches out and pulls the person into her arms, asking over and over again in a choked voice, Xiao Bao, is it really you? Is it because Nyangqin misses you so much that she's hallucinating? Xiao Bao tightly hugs Mayan's neck, big drops of tears rolling down, and his little body also sobs. Nyangqin, I'm Xiao Bao, it's true. Nyangqin, Xiao Bao misses you so much, every day, I think of you. Mayan opens her mouth, wanting to say, Nyangqin too, I think of you every day. But when the words are at the tip of her tongue, she can no longer hold them back, and tears pour down in majestic waves. She can only hold the little person in her arms tightly with trembling hands, only hoping that they'll never be separated again. The scene of the mother and son hugging and crying made everyone's eyes redden. Elanxin and the others don't understand why the miss would have a son at such a young age. But it doesn't prevent them from crying over this beautiful and moving scene. However, just as everyone's emotions are stirred, suddenly, a large hand with distinct joints stretched out from the side, grabbed Xiao Bao's collar, and lifted him up. Xiao Bao's big bright red eyes from crying quickly meet a pair of deep blue eyes. Jun Machin, do you still remember what you promised me before you came to the Shuzhen continent? Di Mingju slightly narrows his eyes, looking at the crying and twitching little brat in front of him. Xiao Bao wipes his eyes and hangs his head in shame, mumbling, "Don't make Nyangqin cry." Di Mingju snorts coldly, "Then did you do it?" Xiao Bao is about to speak when Mayan takes him away. At this time, the tear stains on the girl's face had already disappeared, but her eyes were still a little red. A brilliant smile blossomed on her face as she kissed Xiao Bao's face heavily. How can tears of joy be considered as tears? Xiao Bao, don't you think so? Xiao Bao immediately nodded vigorously. His little face was flushed, and his eyes were sparkling. His short little hands are tightly wrapped around Mayan's neck, and the brilliance in his eyes is like he has the whole world. Seeing him like this, Di Mingju's heart can't help but be moved. In the Shuzhen continent, no matter how sensible and mature Xiao Bao was, his eyes never had this kind of brilliance. Although he was thinking this in his heart, he snorted coldly on the surface. Ben Jun has been separated from you for so long, but why haven't I seen you cry tears of joy? Mayan chuckles, suddenly sending Xiao Bao from her bosom to Di Mingju's. Di Mingju promptly reaches out to catch it. As soon as he firmly holds Xiao Bao, he feels that he and Xiao Bao are being embraced by a fragrant embrace. The girl's hands aren't enough to hug his tall figure, but she strives to get closer to them, to hold them in her arms. A low and soft voice rings in his ear, Di Mingju, thank you. I like this surprise. Di Mingju's complexion softens, and he could no longer maintain his tsundere demeanor. He pulls the girl into his arms. Chapter 2680. I owe you too much, so I'll pay you back with everything I have. Soon after, he once again heard Mu Yan's soft voice, like a feather plucking at his heartstrings. Di Mingju, I saw everything you did for me in the small world. The moment she's about to step out of the small world, Mu Yan suddenly reacts. Every sword chi, every dot of light, every attack that complements her Shin musician skills, is tailor-made for her. She didn't know what kind of trials the other disciples had gone through. But in her small world, it's filled with Di Mingju's love and care for her. He was afraid that she wasn't strong enough, so he personally slashed down one sword after another, condensing attack after attack, to temper her, to forge her, to help her grow. He was so afraid that she would get hurt, but he was willing to let her go. He knew that she missed Xiao Bao, so he had to bring Xiao Bao to see her even if he had to expend too much of his divine power. Endless gratitude and excitement transformed into a sweet feeling that soaked his heart. This man never said anything, but he always did so much for her behind her back. Hearing this, Di Mingju stares blankly at first. Then, the look in his eyes deepens. He lowers his head and says in a soft voice, only your small world was personally forged by Ben Jun Yan Yan. What you owe Ben Jun isn't just this. In the future, when you get married, Ben Jun will want both principal and interest. Yes. Jun Mayan owes Di Mingju too much. Mu Yan interrupts him, a gentle and bright smile blooming on her face, so, I'll use the next half of my life, the next life after that to pay it back. After Mu Yan and Xiao Bao have finished reminiscing about the past, they realize something. Where's Xiao Qi? Has he not come out of the small world yet? Yun Ruhan revealed a worried expression. Could it be that this brat wants to break through so badly that he refuses to come out? Ling Yuma burst out laughing. Xiao Qi must be angry because his cultivation has always been at the bottom, so this time he is going all out to be stronger than us. Thinking of Luo Yu's behavior outside the sword furnace, everyone could not help but laugh. However, time passed slowly. By the time the sun set in the west and darkness enveloped the land, Luo Yu still had not come out of the small world. This time, even Mu Yan can't remain calm. But now, Di Mingju's consciousness has returned to the Shuxian continent to deal with matters. Before he left, he only said that Luo Yu had nothing to do in the small world and left. But why didn't he come out until now? Yun Ruhan paced back and forth among the ruins. If not for the fact that everyone had a different entrance to the small world, Yun Ruhan would have gone in and dragged him out. Senior brother, don't worry. Ling Yuma said, since Teacher Mo said that Xiao Qi is fine, then he must be fine. Perhaps it's because this fellow has comprehended the deepest and gained the most inside, which is why he hasn't come out yet. Yun Ruhan forced a smile. Just as he said the word the ground suddenly shook violently. Mu Yan's expression changed. She hugged Xiao Bao and shouted, everyone, retreat. The members of the Xiao Yao sect reacted quickly. Ling Yuxing grabs Chu Moli and rushes to Mayan's side. The others also leaped to the side. Just as they finished moving, they heard a loud boom coming from below. Countless rubble flew everywhere. The buildings in Fu Sang City that were originally half destroyed were all smashed into powder. A white light soared up from the ground and stopped above the clouds. Chapter 2681. Divine Beast Bays 1. Soaring into the sky, then it suddenly exploded. Roar! An earth-shattering beast roar resounded through the clouds. Yun Ruhan suddenly pushed away the rubble on her body and looked up. Her pupils contracted violently. She saw that in the night sky, a dazzling, snow-white beast was raising its proud head among the stars. It looked down at the ground from high above, like it was looking down at an ant-like inferior creature. Mu Yan looked up at this scene and couldn't help but cry out, "Divine Beast by Zai." Xiao Qi, he. Qi Huang's voice suddenly came to her ears. Bai Zai has condensed into a physical body. It seems that Lan Luoyu has truly activated the soul orb. It's just a divine beast, and it dares to look down on this sage. If this sage can get out, I'll definitely beat it. Mu Yan ignored Qi Huang's complaints and looked worriedly at Bai Zai in the sky. Then she looked at Yun Ruhan, whose face was deathly pale and eyes filled with fear. From the moment they entered the purple cloud realm, eldest senior brother had always wanted them to keep a low profile. He had also repeatedly told Xiao Qi that they must not reveal the divine beast Bai Zai in front of others. What was eldest senior brother afraid of? Azure Cloud Realm, Xiaoyao Sect. Shi Qing abruptly woke up from his dream. He didn't even have time to put on his shoes as he stumbled out of the house. In the distant horizon, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. It seemed no different from the previous nights. But Shi Qing stared fixedly in the direction of the purple cloud realm. His expression was one of shock and fear, between crying and laughing. What will come in the end. What will come in the end will come in the end. On an unremarkable mountain peak in the heavenly Phoenix mountain range. The moonlight fell on top of the wind, appearing quiet and desolate. Suddenly, a huge rock on the mountain peak exploded, blasting a large hole in the ground. The smoke and dust dissipated, and soon a figure slowly floated out of the hole. He wore a blue robe and his hair was meticulously combed. He looked towards the west. A pair of brown vertical pupils appeared cold and shiny under the moonlight. "He's here, finally, he's here," the hoarse voice sounded especially treacherous and cold in the quiet night. The man raised his head and took a deep breath, as if he was trying very hard to suppress his surging emotions. Even his voice was trembling with excitement. "My 15 years of waiting in this cultivation land was not in vain. I've finally caught you, my dear, little prince." Fusang City. Bai Zai's beast form appeared in the air for a quarter of an hour before it finally dissipated. Pull. Cough, 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 which one of you? Cough, cough. Someone help me. The familiar yet weak voice pulled everyone back from their thoughts. Yun Ruhan abruptly recovered from her shock and rushed to the ruins. She reached out and pulled out the youth whose head and face were covered in dust. Cough, cough, cough. "Thank you, eldest senior brother," Luo Yute said gloomily as he dusted himself off. "What the hell is this? It almost blew me up. Why did you use the Bai's soul orb?" Luo Yu's muttering was suddenly interrupted by Yun Ruhan's angry roar. "Didn't I tell you not to use the Bai's soul pearl unless you had no other choice?" Luo Yu was stunned by the scolding. Although eldest senior brother was usually strict with him, he had never scolded him so fiercely before. He said with some grievance, "No, it's not that I wanted to use the Bai's soul pearl. When I broke through to the nascent soul stage, a lot of spiritual energy suddenly surged around me, and some special energy. The Bai's soul pearl floated out by itself and started to devour energy. Chapter 2682. Divine Beast by Zay. 2. Asking for votes. In fact, Luo Yu spent so much time in the small world. That's because his trial wasn't as smooth as Mu Yan's. This was because after he entered the small world, the two soul orbs on his body started to absorb the energy around him non-stop. Or rather, it was the power of the small world. So much so that Luo Yu couldn't break through to the nascent soul stage. He passed the trial very quickly. But thinking about it, his senior brothers and sisters had higher cultivation than him. Now that he's in the small world, they must have advanced by leaps and bounds. If he was still at the peak of Jin Dan, wouldn't he be laughed at? That was absolutely impossible. Thus, Luo Yu could only desperately cultivate in the small world, desperately fighting for spiritual power and power from his soul orbs. Fortunately, Di Mingju's small world was so powerful that there was an endless source of power inside. So, after spending twice as much time as Mu Yan and the others, Luo Yu finally broke through to the nascent soul stage. But at the same time, his two soul orbs also broke through. Bai Feng broke through, it was still quietly nesting on him. But Bai Zai seemed to have been suppressed for a long time. Once it broke through, it didn't wait for its master's order and directly rushed out of the small world. Luo Yu cautiously looked at Yun Ruhan and reached out to grab his sleeve. "Senior brother, don't be angry, okay? Anyway, there's no one else here, we're all from the Xiaoyao sect. It doesn't matter if Bai Zai was seen." "That's right, senior brother. We already knew that Shao Qi could summon the divine beast Bai Zai. Don't worry, everyone will keep their mouths shut. Because it's been too long, and they knew that everyone was fine. Yilanxin and the others had already been sent back to rest by Mu Yan. So, only the Xiaoyao 7 and Xiao Bao were present. But the divine beast Bai Zai that just soared into the sky and spread out in all directions, or rather, the pressure of a divine beast, Yun Ruhan raised his head and stared at the youth in front of him. Fear, pain, and sorrow churned in the depths of his eyes, but he eventually suppressed them. Maybe no one really found out. Maybe those people had already left the Shuzhen continent. Even if someone sensed Bai Zai's beast god aura, at least, no one would know that it was coming from Shao Qi. Yun Ruhan closed her eyes. Seeing Luo Yu's uneasy expression, her heart ached. He stretched out his hand and knocked on his head. "In the future, you are not allowed to summon Bai Zai even in front of us. Do you hear me?" Luo Yu cried out in pain, but she couldn't help but smile. I know. Eldest senior brother, you're not angry anymore, right?" Under the moonlight, the handsome young man had two cute dimples that were faintly discernible. Yun Ruhan couldn't help but shake her head and poke his head. When Leng Yuma saw that the alarm was lifted, she immediately came forward with a smile. Shao Qi is not bad, you are actually at the 3rd rank of nascent soul. This time, you are not the only one at the bottom, right?" Luo Yu was originally still smiling, but when she looked around, she discovered that aside from Chu Mo Li, everyone else was at least in the 5th level of the nascent soul realm. Mu Yan directly reached the peak of the nascent soul stage, and her vision suddenly went dark. He had worked hard for half a day and spent twice the time of others, but in the end, he was still at the bottom. Just as she was depressed for 2 seconds, Luo Yu's gaze suddenly fell on Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao baby, you're back. 7th Martial Uncle missed you so much, quickly let Martial Uncle hug you. In a split second, what Bai Zai, what cultivation at the bottom, everything was thrown to the back of her mind. "I'm a bit late, I hope I didn't affect your reading." Chapter 2683. Growth of the Netherflame Army. 1. In the next few days, the injuries of the female cultivators in Fusang City gradually improved. Bai Chen and Ru Yan, who had come to receive them into the Nether Flame Army, had also received the order and rushed over. After not seeing each other for a long time, Bai Chen and Ru Yan's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Under the cleansing of Mu Yan's Shen musician, rebirth, skill, coupled with the support of elixirs at all costs. Yan Haotian, Ru Yan, Feng Haitang and Bai Chen, the four leaders, had already broken through the gold core stage. Bai Chen and Yan Haotian had already reached the 5th stage golden core. Compared to the people of the Xiaoyao sect, their cultivation speed was a bit slow. But for the entire cultivation world, it was already unimaginably fast. Not to mention that they originally came from the Yanwu continent. They should have been forever stuck at the stage of fasting, unable to advance even an inch. Seeing Mayan, Bai Chen and Ru Yan are wild with joy. Ru Yan rushes over and hugs Mu Yan. "Miss, we all missed you." Not long after she hugged him, she glanced at the expressionless handsome man beside her. She immediately shrank her neck and hurriedly took a few steps back. He shows a fawning smile towards Di Mingju. "Greetings, son-in-law." Bai Chen also slowly knelt down on one knee and bowed. "Greetings, Mississippi, greetings, young master." Mu Yan looks at the two people kneeling on one knee with a clenched fist on their chest. For a moment, she is somewhat absent-minded. In the past, the people of Hellfire Valley knelt in front of her, calling her Miss, calling Di Mingju son-in-law. Only 2 years have passed, but it seems like the blue sea has turned into mulberry fields. A very, very long time has passed. However, no matter how much time had passed, these people still stayed by her side and never left. Mu Yan couldn't help but reach out to hold Di Mingju's hand, showing him a gentle and loving smile. Di Mingju seems to understand the meaning in her eyes. He turns his hand around and holds her small, soft hand in the hollow of his palm, gazing deeply at her. The heavens let them meet, but they always created difficulties to prevent them from being together. In the Yanwu continent, he wanted to marry Mayan, but in the end, they were almost separated by life and death. On the road of cultivation, they finally met again. He thought that the two of them could finally tie the knot, but there was the marriage contract on the 3-life stone between the two of them. But no matter how much heaven doesn't want him and Mayan to be together. No matter how many difficulties and dangers awaited them in front of them. He would never let go of the girl's hand. If the Yanwu continent can't do it, then wait for the Shuzhen continent. If the Shuzhen continent can't do it, then wait for the Shushan continent. Even if it's to the ends of the earth, to the depths of hell, as long as he, Di Mingju, is still alive, he will definitely make Mayan his wife. If a Buddha stood in his way, he would kill a Buddha. If a god stood in his way, he would slaughter a god. Mu Yan felt her hands tighten as she was pulled into the man's arms and hugged tightly. The scene in front of them reminded them of the past. But she doesn't know that the direction of Di Mingju's thinking is the complete opposite of hers. However, when he saw Ru Yan's smiling ambiguous eyes, and then looked at Zhu Wan, Gilanxin and the others on the side, he couldn't help but push her away in embarrassment. Mayan coughs lightly and pretends to be calm. "Get up, tell me about the recent development of the Nether Flame Army." Ru Yan and Bai Chen immediately stood up and reported the situation. Back then, when the Nether Flame Army was only active in the Azure Sky domain and the Azure Blue domain due to their lack of strength, they had developed very well. During this period of time, because of Mu Yan's all-round support and the assistance of the rebirth skill, the overall strength of the Nether Flame Army must be getting stronger and stronger. However, after listening to Ru Yan's narration, Mayan is still a little shocked. The strength of the Nether Flame Army has somewhat exceeded her imagination. Chapter 2684. The growth of the Nether Flame Army, 2. You mean you have taken over the Jushan Pavilion? Mayan asked incredulously. Hearing this exclamation, the people of the Xiaoyao sect could not help but gather. Is it the Jushin Pavilion that held the spiritual chef competition in the Tianguang ruins? That is the most famous restaurant in the whole cultivation continent. It is also famous in the Azure Blue Realm and the Purple Cloud Realm. Many people want to go there. Ru Yan raised her chin proudly and then looked at Mayan with a smile. Hee, it is all thanks to the bottleneck-breaking pill that you gave us. The only son of the owner of the Jushin Pavilion is extremely talented and the only disciple of the Xianjian sect. The Xianjian sect is a first-class sect in the southern land of the Purple Cloud Realm. Its strength is not weaker than the Mu family and the Shui family. It is the sect that all sword cultivators in the cultivation continent yearn to join. However, that son was seriously injured some time ago and almost died. Although the injury was healed, a demon appeared in his heart and his cultivation stagnated at the peak of the Gold Core realm, unable to break through. The owner of the Jushin Pavilion is very anxious. He invited all the doctors he could and bought all the elixirs he could, but no one could cure his son. In other words, his son is not sick at all. No matter how powerful the doctors are, they can't cure the demon. He even spent a lot of money to buy all kinds of elixirs sold in the old man is #1 in the world shop. Although they were effective, they could not help his son break through. Ru Yan blinked and smiled slyly. After I heard about it, I took the king-level bottleneck-breaking pill that you gave me to find the owner of the Jushin Pavilion. Hearing this, the people of the Xiaoyao sect immediately understood. The Jushin Pavilion sells the elixirs that Mayan refined, but they are by no means the best elixirs that she refined. At least, Chu Tianyu did not allow Mayan to sell king elixirs and quasi-king elixirs. After thinking about it, Mayan did not intend to sell them in the shop. Although they are both bottleneck-breaking pills, the 10th grade and king elixirs are completely different. The son of the owner of the Jushin Pavilion is unable to break through the demon in his heart. It is as if he is trapped in a cage made by an illusion and cannot get out. Most of the pills were to help him clear his mind and break through the illusion. But the king-level bottleneck-breaking pill directly broke the illusion and forcibly dragged him out of the cage. Ru Yan looks at Mayan with a face full of worship. The owner of Jushin Pavilion kept his word. After his son broke through, he gave up Jushin Pavilion with both hands. Using the Immortal Gathering Pavilion and the Dragon Soaring Academy as a springboard, we also entered the pill and mercenary markets of the eastern and southern lands of the Purple Cloud Realm. Listening to Ru Yan speak with confidence and composure, Mu Yan couldn't help but sigh. The Nether Flame army had grown much faster than she had imagined. This made her feel indescribably gratified. She was always afraid that these people who risked everything to follow her would not live a good life, which would make her regret leaving the spirit-molding pill to them. But now, it seemed that they had made the right choice. Mayan slowly said, "You have done very well, I am proud of you." Ru Yan once again giggled and said, "We have no choice but to work hard. Miss, your other two groups of followers, the Liangshan army and the devastating city army, are developing like a raging fire, becoming more and more prosperous with each passing day. If we, the Nether Flame army, do not work hard enough, how can we be qualified to be the sharpest sword in the hands of Miss and Little Master?" Mayan laughed in spite of herself. Just as she was about to speak, she heard Xiao Bao's small face at the side, saying coldly, "It's not a sword, it's family." The Nether Flame army is Xiao Bao's and Mother's family. Chapter 2685. No one is allowed to suspect him. 1. To Xiao Bao, the Liangshan army and the toppling city army were things he did not understand, nor did he dare to be interested in. However, the Nether Flame army was different. These people have been accompanying him since the beginning of the Yanwu continent, protecting him. She called him Little Master and risked her life to save him time and time again. Even if she had to cross time and space, she still wanted to follow him and his mother. How could these people be swords? How could they be subordinates? They were Xiao Bao and his mother's loved ones, and they could never be abandoned. Both Ru Yan and Bai Chen shuddered, their widened eyes bursting with a dazzling light. The heat dyed Ru Yan's eyes red. She quickly turned around to wipe them before saying, "Little master, to be able to follow you and Miss is the greatest honor of our Nether Flame army." Mu Yan rubbed Xiao Bao's head and gave him a look of approval. Then, she said, "I called you here today because I have something to tell you. Miss, please speak." Mu Yan briefly recounted everything she had encountered in Fusang City, as well as the experiences of Zhu Wan, Lanxin, and the others. Make arrangements for these women. Regardless of whether they were accepted into the Nether Flame army or not, both sides could do as they wished. There was no need to force it. But I hope that they can live a peaceful and happy life for the rest of their lives. They don't have to pay any price for the suffering they've suffered in the past. Ru Yan's, Divine Secret Battalion, had many women who had been through life and death. They had long been accustomed to the hypocrisy and ugliness of the world. But what happened to the women in Fusang City still made her dumbfounded, and she gritted her teeth in hatred. Ru Yan looked at Zhu Wan, Ilanxin, and the others. Although our Tianji unit is an intelligence unit, we will never use women to carry out those lowly honey traps. Bah, isn't it just asking women to be sacrificed? Our Nether Fire army is disdainful. If you join the Heavenly Secret Battalion, I guarantee that you will be able to bring out your true strengths. Of course, if you don't like intelligence work, the Everlasting Camp is also a good choice. Ru Yan's clear and melodious voice and chatterbox blabbered on and on, causing the female cultivators' originally tense expressions to slowly relax. They could feel that this beautiful woman did not look down on them at all. There was pity in his eyes, as well as a common enemy, but there was no cheap sympathy. Soon, more than half of the female cultivators chose to join the Heavenly Secret Battalion, while the rest yearned for the peaceful and tranquil Longevity Battalion. Only Zhu Wan and Ilanxin walked before Mayan and slowly kneeled down. "Miss, we want to stay by your side." Just as Mu Yan is about to speak, Di Mingju suddenly releases his pressure. This pressure isn't even a millionth of Di Mingju's strength. But to Zhu Wan and Ilanxin, it was like a mountain pressing down on them, causing them to suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood and fall to the ground. Di Mingju condescendingly looks down at the two of them. There isn't a shred of pity in his eyes. "You should be glad that you're weak. I have no interest in bickering with two ants. But next time, if Ben Jun hears you try in vain to provoke Yan Yan again, then don't blame Ben Jun for being ruthless." Zhu Wan and Ilanxin's faces were pale. It was as if their souls were being squeezed crazily and were on the verge of shattering. His body trembled uncontrollably. But Mayan, who had always been incomparably lenient towards these pitiful women, doesn't say anything this time. Instead, she calmly watches Di Mingju's movements. When Di Mingju withdraws his pressure, she coldly says, "Zhu Wan, Ilanxin, even if Di Mingju didn't make a move today, I would still flare up all the same." Chapter 2686. Not allowing anyone's suspicions. 2. Asking for votes. I know that you've just crawled back from hell, and can no longer trust any man. I won't interfere with your choices, but please, don't try in vain to interfere with my feelings. It's not that after seeing the darkness, there's only darkness left in the world. It's not that the men of Fusang City are beasts, but that all men in the world are not good things. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if I've truly given my heart wrongly, and been betrayed and abandoned, that's still my choice. And at this very moment, Mayan's gaze sweeps over the shivering Zhu Wan and Ilanxin, then slowly turns to all the female cultivators. Her voice is clear and firm, pleasing to the ears, as if every word and sentence hits everyone's soul. At this very moment, I will not allow anyone to suspect my fiancé for no reason, to slander the man I love. If any of you do it again, then please get lost from my side, and never let me see you again. Do you understand? Those female cultivators tremble from head to toe, and suddenly come back to their senses. They kneel on the ground, understood. We will never do it again. Enchanting and Zhu Wan raise their heads, their somewhat reddened eyes looking at Mayan. There's still a trace of unwillingness in their eyes. But when they see Di Mingju, they suddenly freeze. At this time, the man is intently looking at the girl beside him. His ice-blue eyes are always covered with a frosty coldness. But at this very moment, there's a kind of bone-deep gentleness. It's as if he doesn't put anything in the world in his eyes, and only the girl in front of him is the most precious treasure that he cherishes and loves. Enchanting and Zhu Wan feel as if they've been ruthlessly hit on their souls. They suddenly realize how precious such a man, such deep affection, is. And how wrong they are. The two struggle to get up from the ground, crouch on the ground, and hoarsely say, "Miss, please forgive us, we were blinded by greed. In the future, we will never dare to slander the son-in-law again, and we hope that Miss will not drive us away." Enchanting anxiously says, "We are willing to join the Nether Flame Army, but please, Miss, don't dare to drive us away." Zhu Wan wipes the tears on her face, and says with difficulty, "If we leave Miss, we really don't know, where else in this world would we find shelter?" Mayan sighs softly and looks at Di Mingju. Di Mingju snorts coldly, "Do you think that Ben Jun would bother with two women?" He kept a straight face and said some unpleasant words, but the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up. This was the first time the Polar Domain Sovereign Lord was protected like this. Moreover, that sentence, "I won't allow anyone to be suspicious of my fiancé for no reason, to slander the man I love," makes Jun Shangdaran simply burst with joy. How could he still have the interest to haggle with Enchanting and the others? Seeing that Di Mingju really doesn't care, Mu Yan looks at Bai Chen. Both Zhu Wan and Enchanting are meticulous and powerful people. The Taishu camp still lacks powerful deputy generals. "Yi Chen, I'll leave these two people to you." Bai Chen nodded and bowed. Yes, Mississippi, because it was rare to see Mu Yan and Xiao Bao, Bai Chen and Ru Yan did not leave immediately. Instead, they plan to set off tomorrow morning. Bai Chen intends to first experience the strength of Zhu Wan and Enchanting. Ru Yan looks at his tall and straight back from the side. She sighs softly, and half chuckles, and half sighs, "Miss, why do you always arrange girls for Ichen's side awe? If these two also fall into the same trap as Shui Yan, what should we do?" Chapter 2687. The affairs of the heart are beyond human control. Mayan stares blankly and looks at Ru Yan. "What do you mean by that?" Her voice pauses, and she suddenly says with uncertainty, "Does Shui Yan like Yichen?" Shui Yan could be said to be the second in command of the Great Void Camp. His performance in the Yenwu continent was excellent. After arriving at the cultivation continent, he accidentally discovered that she was the long-lost granddaughter of the richest man in the Azure Blue Realm, Zhu Fugue. The reason why the Nether Flame Army was able to develop so well at the beginning was definitely related to the financial support of the Zhu family. Ru Yan nodded and then could not help but let out a soft sigh. Ru Yan, can be considered to have seen countless men, but someone as infatuated as Bai Chen is really too rare. His fiancée has already been killed by that slut Gong Qinxue for so many years, but young Master Bai has never thought of finding another woman to spend the rest of his life with. Every year on the anniversary of Miss Lin's death, we would see him holding their jade pendant and drinking himself into oblivion. As early as in the Yenwu continent, Shui Yan had already fallen in love with him, openly and secretly confessing to him many times. But they were all rejected by Master Bai without hesitation. I think that if you didn't give him the Grand Void Battalion and give him trust and hope, he might have already left with Miss Lin. Mu Yen sighs softly. In this life, Lin Sitong could be said to have died in the hands of Gong Qinshua in her place. She had always felt guilty towards Bai Chen, this pair of ill-fated lovebirds, but there was nothing she could do. He could only try his best to keep Bai Chen alive. That was also Lin Sitong's greatest wish before she died. As for Shui Yan, Mu Yan knows even more than Yan. Shui Yan's life was originally saved by Bai Chen and brought back to the Ziyang sect. It was also because of Bai Chen that she joined the Nether Flame Army. A long, long time ago, Shui Yan had a special feeling for Bai Chen. It was only because Bai Chen's heart belonged to someone else that he kept it hidden in the depths of his heart. However, after so many years of Lin Sitong's death, she might not be able to suppress her feelings anymore. If possible, of course, she hoped that Bai Chen could walk out of the heartache of the past. However, matters of the heart were beyond human control. Sometimes, love was love, even if they were separated forever. If you don't love her, then you don't love her, even if she's always by your side. Not being decisive would only bring pain to both sides. Mu Yan took a deep breath and made a decision: pass my order, transfer Shui Yan to the Tianji Battalion, and transfer a mature and steady male cultivator from the Grand Void Battalion to assist Chen. Zhu Wan and Yilanxin will start from the bottom of the Grand Void Battalion. Ru Yan slightly widens her eyes and looks at Mayan, but she quickly comes back to her senses. She lowers her head and says, "As you bid, Mississippi." Snow Goose would definitely be heartbroken by this order. But this was the best result for everyone. Reunions are always short. Di Mingju is the emperor of the polar domain. Now that the Nether Realm and the demon race are getting restless, he can't leave the Shushan continent for a long time no matter what. On the other hand, Xiao Bao's cultivation was far from over. If he wanted to make rapid progress in a short period of time, he would have to return to his small world to continue studying and training diligently. Xiao Bao nestles tightly in Mayan's arms, rubbing against her reluctantly. "Nyangqin, Xiao Bao will be a little faster, a little stronger, and then return to Nyangqin's side to protect you." Mayan's heart is also full of reluctance. But it's not like when Xiao Bao left her for the first time. Chapter 2688. Come, let's go abuse the dregs. 1. Mu Yan reaches out and gently rubs Xiao Bao's head. Her voice is slightly hoarse, but there's an unspeakable tenderness in it. Nyangqin will also work hard. Hurry and come to your side. Xiao Bao hugs Mu Yan more tightly, his little hands tightly holding her waist, unwilling to let go. Suddenly, he thinks of something. He pulls Mu Yan's sleeve and whispers in her ear, "Nyangqin, Brother Qi Huang said that if you want the rabbit's poop, I have a lot of it in my space. How about I give it all to you?" Xiao Bao knows that Brother Qi Huang's existence is his mother's biggest secret. Even if it's his father and his martial uncles, he can't say it. Although Xiao Bao doesn't understand why, he always listens to his mother's words the most. Mu Yan's eyes brighten, and she kisses Xiao Bao on the cheek. Sure enough, she knows that Xiao Bao is her greatest luck. The fat rabbit's poop is an attributeless substance. With what Xiao Bao gives her, she can upgrade her Shen musician skills without any scruples. However, it turns out that Mu Yan is thinking too much. Last time, she sent the fat rabbit's poop into the Tian Mo Qin and directly obtained 1,000 rounds of god power. But this time, there are only 100 or even a few dozen rounds of god power in one poop. How could this be? Qi Huang sneers, "Idiot, do you think that the Shen musician skills are so easy to upgrade? If it was so easy to cheat, the Shen musician sect has been passed down for thousands of years, and no one has ever reached the top. The same attributeless substance can only be used once. This fat rabbit is quite special. Each poop actually contains a few different types of attributeless substances, which allows you to obtain 100 rounds of God power from time to time. But even 100 rounds of God power can't last long. As Chi Huang said, after feeding the Tian Mo Chin 10 fat rabbit poop, the Tian Mo Chin directly refuses to swallow the fat rabbit's poop. Mu Yan is disappointed, but she soon gets over it. It's already a pleasant surprise that the fat rabbit's discrimination can provide her with so much God power. As a matter of fact, the Tian Mo Chin is once again filled to the brim, and she can choose to upgrade her skills. Mu Yan thinks for a long time, and finally lights up the 2 stars after rebirth. She hopes to help everyone in Mingyan Valley to cleanse their marrows as soon as possible, so that they can find a broader sky in their cultivation journey. We've stayed in Fusang City long enough. It's time to set off for our next destination. Yun Ruhan looked at her 6 juniors and said slowly, "Next, we're going to the Lien family in the western continent of the Purple Cloud Realm. Does anyone have any objections?" Ling Yuma suddenly stood up, "Eldest senior brother, you don't have to do it for me anymore." Yun Ruhan smiled warmly at Ling Yuma, then turned her head. Her face was cold and her eyes were bloodshot. No one who bullies the carefree sect doesn't have to pay the price. Yuma, we didn't know what you went through in the past. Now that we know, how can we not accompany you to seek justice? Ling Yuma did not tell him everything that she had experienced, but the words that Hong Mian said before she died. The people of the Xiaoyao sect had already guessed what was going on. Luo Youth clenched her fists and said indignantly, "Fourth senior sister, remember Master said that when you were picked up, you were half dead. Your mother suffered such torture here. Now that you know who the culprit is, can you still endure it?" Chapter 2689. Let's go abuse the dregs. 1. Mu Yen suddenly follows Luo Yu's words. Or do you want to take revenge behind our backs? Fourth sister, this won't do. We've already agreed that the Xiaoyao 7 will advance and retreat together. Ling Yuma clenches her fists tightly. She doesn't want revenge. How is that possible? Even in her dreams, she wants to tear Lang Shuqin into pieces. But, she closes her eyes and says hoarsely, "Lian Sheng is a crossing tribulation cultivator. Even if the 7 of us work together, we're not his match. After all, I'm his daughter. Even if he hates me, he won't really kill me for the sake of fame and other people's comments. At most, he'll cripple her again like that year. However, if the other people of the Xiaoyao sect stand up for her, then Lian Sheng won't be merciful. That ungrateful, selfish, and merciless man, Ling Yuma doesn't even want to call him father anymore." Mayan smiles, and with a flip of her hand, she suddenly takes out a talisman. Gently shaking it, she smirks and says, "Before Di Mingju left, he gave me a talisman treasure. In a critical moment, if I exhaust all my spiritual power, I can defeat a crossing tribulation stage cultivator." Ling Yuma stares blankly at the talisman in her hand. She knows that after Xiao Bao and Mu Yen bid farewell, Di Mingju took Mu Yen away. The 2 of them hid somewhere and chatted for an hour before returning. However, she didn't expect that Di Mingju would prepare such a talisman for her junior sister. One must know that in the Shuxian continent, almost everyone uses immortal power. No one has spiritual power. Unfortunately, things with immortal power cannot be brought to the Shuxian continent through the space barrier. One can imagine how much effort Di Mingju had to put in to complete such a small talisman that could be said to be trash in his eyes. In order to protect his fiancée, Jun Shangdaran is going all out. Chu Amoli says with a smile that isn't a smile, "Junior sister, why do I feel that you don't want to appease Xiao Si, but rather can't wait to show off to us?" Mu Yen raises her eyebrows and smiles like a flower. Her peach blossom eyes are as bright as the stars. "My man is perfect and treats me well. Is there a problem with me showing off? This time, even Chu Moli choked. The crowd had rarely seen the abnormal third senior brother suffer such a setback, and they couldn't help but laugh out loud. Mu Yan carefully kept the talisman treasure back into her space, then winked at Leng Yuma, fourth senior sister. Can we go to the Lien family castle now? If you still don't agree, then don't you want to see us beat you to the ground? Beat him up. Leng Yuma did not hesitate to clench her fists and roar, fuck, even in my dreams, I want to beat up this scumbag couple until their parents don't recognize them. She held the red lotus soul-stealing saber on her waist and turned to look at Leng Wolin, who was expressionless and ignorant. With Mayan's medical skills, she can treat any ordinary illness. However, Leng Wolin's situation was different. Her soul seemed to have dissipated. Only a small remnant soul was left, barely supporting the operation of the body's functions. Mayan uses the calm soul and settle soul function to try to recall her soul, and then discovers a strange thing. Leng Wolin's soul didn't disperse and disappear. Instead, it hid in the depths of her knowledge sea and entered into a dormant state, unwilling to wake up. Mayan tried countless times to use the sound of the zither to recall her soul, but the results were minimal. This is a human self-protection mechanism. Because it's too painful and unbearable, she can only seal her emotions forever. Chapter 2690. Let's go abuse the scum, too, begging for votes. One could imagine how much suffering Leng Wolin had gone through in those years for her to end up like this. Leng Yuma walked to Leng Wolin's side and slowly squatted down. She held Leng Wolin's ice-cold hands and her eyes were filled with tears. Mother, your suffering will not be in vain. I will definitely clear up your injustice. I want everyone in the world to know that it wasn't you who cheated on the Lien family, it was the Lien family's bastards who let you down. Yun Ruhan waves her hand, let's go now. As soon as the 7 people walk out of Fusang City, they are shocked by the scene in front of them. They see that there are dozens of fresh corpses lying in disorder at the city gate. That's right, those are fresh corpses. The male cultivators of Fusang City have long been burned clean by Yi Lanxin and the others. Mu Yan quickly sees a familiar face among these corpses. Wei Baolin. Seeing the man's twisted and painful death, Mu Yan's eyes slightly narrow. They had almost forgotten about this man. At first, because Wei Baolin was a member of the Murong family, even if he was born in Fusang City, Mu Yan and the others never suspected him. As for Gu Feiping, who even Wei Baolin praised and trusted, they naturally had less suspicion. But they didn't expect that Wei Baolin was the person who hid the deepest. From the beginning, he knew what would happen to the female cultivators who entered Fusang City, and what kind of person Gu Feiping was, but he tricked them into entering. For the first time in her life, Mu Yan almost failed miserably. But this Wei Baolin disappeared without a trace, and there was no news of him. Mu Yan thought that he had died in the hands of the furious female cultivators of Fusang City. She didn't expect that this person actually escaped. Luo Yu steps forward and fiercely kicks Wei Baolin. She grits her teeth and says, this bastard actually died like this, it's too easy on him. In a while, I will write a letter to Murong Shua and tell her that this Wei is not a good person at all. I heard that he also has a cousin who is also helping the Murong family. The dog men of Fusang City are not good people, I must let Murong Shua. UMO, Little 7, look, isn't that Wei Baolin's cousin? Wei Baolin's cousin, Mu Yan and the others had only seen him once from afar, but they quickly recognized him. Could these be the people from Fusang City who are training outside? Damn, did someone kill all the male cultivators in Fusang City? Are they trying to end the entire Fusang City's bloodline? Who do you think did this? It can't be Junior Marshal Uncle, right? Chu Moli shook his head. Little Marshall Uncle doesn't have the time to do that. Let's find these people one by one, and then go kill them. Yes. Killing these people was not difficult. The difficult part was finding these cultivators from Mulberry City. He even managed to kill someone in a short period of time. Yun Ruhan suddenly thought of a possibility. She looked at Ling Yuma and slowly said, could it be? Could it be done by the Yunlingling clan? The Yunlingling clan was a well-known clan in the entire cultivation continent. Other than special existences like Luo Yunxiao and Young Master Suicide, the Azure Sky Proclamation represented the highest level of power in the cultivation continent. And the Yunlingling clan occupied 3 of the top 20 positions in the Azure Sky Proclamation. 3 tribulations for one clan. The old man of the Ling clan, Ling Yaoshan, had occupied the first position of the Azure Sky Proclamation for dozens of years and had never fallen. It could be said that in the entire cultivation continent, no clan or sect could compare to him. Chapter 2691. If there was someone who could silently kill all the male cultivators in Fusang City in a short time, who would have a reason to do so? The Yunlingling family is definitely the most likely. Ling Yuma is stunned at first, then shows a self-mocking smile. It can't be them. She pauses, then grits her teeth and says, that year, my mother insisted on marrying Lian Xing. It can be said that she broke off all relations with the Ling family. Moreover, Master Ling even announced to the whole Xiuzhen continent that he doesn't have a daughter called Ling Wulin. Later, my mother was taken away by Willow Valley City. I was desperate and went to the Yunlingling family to seek help. However, I was driven away at the foot of the mountain. She will never forget that maid who drove her away looked at her with contempt and sneered. When eldest miss left the Ling family and made the old madam vomit blood in anger, didn't you say that you were no longer a member of the Ling family? Why? Now that you can't go on, you come back to beg for help. What does she think the Ling family is? Does she think that the old madam and the old madam will still recognize her as their daughter? This is also the reason why after so many years, even when she was at her lowest and most miserable time, she never thought of looking for the Ling family again. Mu Yan and the group quickly arrive at 4 Division City, which is close to Fusang City. At that time, they met Ilanxin and Gu Feiping here. And the reason why Gu Feiping came and brought Ilanxin back to Fusang City is precisely because of the guards of 4 Division City who are greedy for money. In fact, as a neighboring city, 4 Division City is absolutely clear about the shady business in Fusang City. However, after knowing about it, not only did they not help those pitiful female cultivators. On the contrary, they helped the evildoers to do evil, and sent those female cultivators who had escaped from the devil's claws with great difficulty to the vicinity of 4 Division City back to hell. Therefore, when the 7 people enter the city, they are once again asked to pay crystals by the guards of 4 Division City and are searched. Ling Yuma flips out on the spot. In the blink of an eye, all the guards of 4 Division City are chopped to the ground. The originally noisy street was now littered with dozens of guards lying on the ground. It was unknown if they were dead or alive. 4 Division City is in a mess. All the cultivators look at the 7 people who slowly walk in like Azuras. Who are these people? Why did you start a massacre the moment you entered 4 Symbol City? I recognize them. They are the unfettered 7 devils. Heavens, why are these 7 fiends here? Have you heard? Fusang City, one of the largest cities in the Violet Cloud Realm's western continent, was burned to the ground a few days ago. Do you know who did this? Who did it? It's the unfettered 7 demons. No, it should be the beautiful killing god, Jun Mayan. I heard from the cultivators who went to Fusang City to scout for information that Jun Mayan alone massacred all the male cultivators in Fusang City. Not even a single corpse was left. One person massacring an entire city. My God, what kind of cruel demoness is she? What are they doing here? He wouldn't be thinking of slaughtering for Symbol City, right? Luo Yu could not help but burst into laughter as she listened to the horrified discussions of the people around her. Sixth senior sister, looks like you can never get rid of the title of she-devil. Mayan touches her nose, feeling very helpless. Not everyone in Four Symbol City is afraid of them. There are also some people who have long known about Fusang City's evil deeds, and hate them bitterly. It's only because they are not strong enough that they are unable to lend a helping hand. Chapter 2692. Alluring Enchantress, Heaven-Defying Baby's Black-Bellied Father, 1, currently typing, please wait a moment, after the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.